Howdy, folks. Welcome into the SMITE Challenger Circuit. It's week number 5 here on SMITE Saturday. We find ourselves in North America. Dimes here. You got me for play-by-play. Good pal Spooky Mars joining me, breaking things down on the analyst side of things. And Spooky, we've got the Valks. We've got the Weavers. Valks 3-1 so far in the season. The Weavers at a very respectable 2-2. It's week number 5. We're wrapping things up here on the road to Masters. And the Valks, crucially, need to lock down this win to secure that second seed placement and make sure to guarantee a trip for themselves down to the SMITE studios in Georgia.
Yeah, this is an important one for the Valkyries. Now, they can't fight for the first seed. They did lose their head-to-head against the Sages, who have the 4-1 record. That's going to cement the Sages in the first spot there. So like you said, the Valkyries want that second seed, and to lock it in for sure, they have to win here tonight to do it. If they lose, they go into tiebreakers. That's not what anyone wants to be. If you can lock in that spot, you're going to want to try to lock it in. But things are a little bit more difficult for them here tonight. They're not going to have Sam with them today. They're going to have Masked in that jungle role. So on one hand, maybe you're expecting to see some more traditional junglers, maybe not some Agnis coming out. On the other, you do lose a little bit of that synergy, and that gives the Weavers something they can play towards, a potential weakness, a chink in the armor that they can look to target, try to give themselves an edge up in this match.
Well, Spooky, let's head to picks and advance for game number 1 here. And it's game number 1, best of 3 set, all your classic usual SCC action here. And looking at these two rosters just on paper, I wouldn't be shocked if this headed to a game number 3. Masked, like you said, subbing in. I don't think anyone's really complaining if you sub in Masked as your jungler. Like, if that's your sub, you're like, that's probably fine. But on the opposite, I mean, everybody knows the Valks at this point. On the opposite side, the Weavers, this is a team full of promise, Spooky, and I hope you picked up on my pun there. Promise, the support player for this team. Hydrogen, Trip, No Grave, and Rimikami. Are you mad at me because I took your thunder?
A little bit mad at you.
Well, the point being here, Spooky, is this is certainly going to be a set to watch as Yamoja and Nox, a couple of supports taken off the board here to kick it off.
See, this is a point where I would say that I can promise that it will be one, but you've now put that potential in the grave. Thank you so much for that.
Ooh!
Yeah.
That was good. I like it.
Yeah, you thought you were getting away.
I like that.
But
you can't
no,
do anything with Rimikami. There, I mean, or Trip now.
Well,
there's no fun puns to be made there.
Yeah, you kind of... Yeah, no, there's nothing to do there. You could try to make a play for, like, he trips you up, but no. Nothing, huh?
I'm trying to think about. We'll talk about it in game. We'll let our brains kind of whirl here for a little bit. Serket taken off the table. No surprise there, has been dominant in the jungle. Same thing goes for the Aphrodite. You've seen it played all day long to great success. That one's got to go. Another healer off the board, Hercules. Wouldn't be shocked if something like a Vamana was taken off the table here. But then that leaves open something like for instance, the Marty, the Ishtar, things of that nature.
Things of that nature available to them. It is the Vamana taken off the board, and frankly, I just like that. Sure, it leaves Martigris up. It does leave Guan Yu up. I would rather be run down by a Guan Yu than a Vamana. It's just not fun, man. It's just not fun. First he dashes, knocks you up, can't do anything to stop that one. Then he goes big baby, CC immune. It's just too much of a hassle to try to deal with. Now, Martigris does go the way of the Weavers. The Valkyries could themselves pick up that Guan Yu, give themselves some potential dive into the safety that this pick brings. The question really is if the Weavers want to put this Marty into that mid lane where we've been seeing him a little bit more in the SCC, or maybe Hydrogen just prefers him over in that Hunter role in the ADC duo lane. We have seen that still happen in the SPL, notably Stewart really likes that one. Kind of have to wait and see how the Weavers prefer things. Victory. I like these pickups from the Valks as well. It still doesn't tell you the whole story. Could be the dual lane picked up by the Valkyries here. Could be an ADC and the solo laner. They may not even know which one it is just yet. They may be waiting to see a little bit more of the Weavers draft before they decide where they want to stick this Horus. The Guan Yu being hovered, well, gives them a little bit more information to work with. If they like the matchup into that Guan Yu, Horus does have a fairly decent one. He can dash in, stun Guan on the Tower Assault, cancel it out, knock him up. Great time over there. Easy putting him into that solo lane. They could wait a little bit longer and see what kind of support the Weavers are going to go for. It looks like a Hubwat jungle. A lot of flex potential on the board for both teams.
But not even, right? There's still some question marks here for the Weaver draft because the Hobwalk could head to the middle lane. You send Marty over to the ADC role. I mean, even Guan Yu, right? Like, yeah, you're going to put him in solo, but I mean, Guan Yu support used to run this game, dude.
Did it?
Just, yes.
Maybe, like, release Guan Yu, original Guan Yu.
I mean, like, 2016, 2017, you know, Hercules over in the support role, Odin.
Hercules isn't Guan Yu.
That was my heyday, bro.
That's not Guan Yu.
Speaking of Odin, pick up here with the Valkyries, probably headed into the solo lane, which kind of spells the tail here for the Horus. I mean, we pretty much knew off the rip this was most likely going to be a Horus support, teaming up with the Kernunos in the duo lane. I don't likely see Kernunos going the mid lane, just because I know Crimson loves to play these high burst scaling mages. So most likely looking forward to seeing something like the Agni, the Thoth, the Baba Yaga, something that can really dish out the damage come mid to late game. Odin heading over to the solo lane, and now as we head into round 2 of bans, the Weavers probably still looking for their probably jungle support, mid support, ADC. Weaver still got some gods to play with here. Valkyries certainly looking for a mid laner and a jungler.
I like the strategy from the Valkyries because you kind of touched on it there. The Weavers, you're not really sure what exactly they've picked here so far. What you do know is that they haven't picked a support. Unless we're going back to Dimes' timeline of 2016, I don't think Guan Yu's running the support role for the Weavers. So that's what the Valkyries are going to target out. Get rid of the Terra, get rid of the Hell, get those healers off the board. Make sure the Weavers just a little bit more vulnerable here around these fights, around this lane phase. Like the style here from the Weavers. Ban out this Thoth, ban out this Merlin. We've seen how effective Crimson can be on that Thoth. It was a rather disgusting pick for him last week. Can't say I'm too surprised to see him taken off of that one. There's still plenty up. There's still the Agni up. There's still the Tiamat up, which is being hovered by the Valkyries now.
Tiamat.
Great scaling god. Plays very well the longer the game goes on. Lots of utility on that one. Great dive potential alongside this Odin and Horus. Looking like a very aggressive composition coming out from the Valk so far. But it's flexible. It's got good aggression. It also has very good disengage. The Odin Cage can just be used to break a fight apart and say, we don't want to be here anymore. We're going this way. You guys have fun. Flexibility is the name of the game. Notably, the Valkyries still do not have their jungler. They're going to wait until they see what they're up against. The Bakasura. Not the Sylvanas, surely.
No.
Sylvanas.
No, Emilito. In the European SCC this morning, Emilito played the Sylvanas and kind of went crazy on it. I mean, the healing to the minions, right? The change on the Wisps, the straight scaling damage on the ultimate. I mean, we were seeing, me and Judas this morning in the EU, we were seeing literally 2v1 invades on the green buff by Emilito on the Sylvanas and was winning them, like continuously almost taking 1v1s against the Discordia and coming out on top. I think this is a legitimate pickup. You'll have to talk me through the Sylvanas into the Valkyries composition, but I think this is a genuinely fantastic pick that I think should be seeing more play in the league. Against an Odin, a little suspect, but it's going to be a Thor to round out the Valkyries draft here for That's Not Sam. Remember, Mass subbing in for week number 5.
Counterpoint, this is not Emilito, and we have seen promise on the Sylvanas before. Not the greatest success rate so far. I'm open to having my mind be changed. Make no mistake. But Promise will have to actively change my mind in this game. And looking at the team he's up against, there's so much lockdown. There's so many ways for the Sylvanas to be separated away from his team. A Sylvanas that's by himself is incredibly vulnerable and very easy to pick off. He doesn't have a whole lot of tools to get himself out of danger once he's in it. Pull will only bring someone closer to you. You can root him down. You can knock him up. You have no leaps to use after that. And if the Valkyries are looking for a weak point to target, it's going to be the Sylvanas once he leaves the duo lane.
Well, Spooky, if you got to change your mind, then you got to see the play on field. So let's head right into game number 1 here between the Weavers and the Valkyries, and see if we can make you a Sylvanas believer here. And something that we touched on just a little bit, but I think is definitely worth pointing out here, Aquarius on this Odin. Remikami, Grave, Trip No Promise. No leaps, dashes at best, lock in the cage. A Phantom Shell is going to have to come up big here for the Weavers. Otherwise, it's just going to be circles on circles.
Wait, Hydrogen is on Bakasura.
Oh, you're so right.
I'll get back to the Odin, but this is a Bakasura ADC. This is not what I was prepared to break down here, Dimes, but it is certainly what we will be looking at. Let's talk about it a little bit, right? We got
I'd love to.
lane pressure coming out with the AoE basics from Promise. It'll help mitigate the short range of the Bakasura. And Bakasura likes building attack speed. Be able to kind of shred down these targets a little bit later on. Gotta be tough into the lane matchup, though. I mean, you're looking at Kernos, you're at the Horus, lots of pressure there. Mm-hmm. Regurgitate does a good job at level 5 of stopping the engage. Cripple Field makes it a little bit more difficult for them to get in, but
sure.
That's about all I got for it. It's definitely a bold pick, to say the least.
Thinking about clear alone, right? You touched on the Horus and the Kernos, two excellent. I mean, the Kernos alone, but you throw in a warrior support. You have fantastic pressure and clear. Yeah. Bakasura is going to have to approach the minions to clear. He doesn't have that Golden Blade online yet, right? That's going to be a crucial part of this clear. You see him building into it with that first item slot there. Already the relic down as well. Both relics down for Hydrogen. So bit unsafe here for the Bakasura, especially at level 2.
It's a blink.
But, I mean, until that item's online, until you have some juice in this Bakasura, pressure is going to be just insane on the side of the Valkyries.
Yeah, that's really the biggest problem that you're going to be looking at. Anytime you're picking a melee character into the ranged matchup, things are going to be a little bit more difficult for you just because the other side is going to be able to poke you down from safety. It makes things very difficult for you to be able to do anything, especially when it comes to clearing the wave. Eat Minion is great. You can guarantee that you'll be getting the Brute every time it comes up. Get the biggest minion, get the most gold. And then you get into this situation. You have to wait for the Valkyries to go ahead and clear the wave, push it up so that you can take it at your tower line. And even then, you have to let it hit your tower or have Promise tank it, which is this early in the game you don't want to do. Those things hit hard. Brave is making rotation. Keep your eye out on the shield buff. That's another point of contention both these teams.
It's going to be tough for the Valks to invade, though. I mean, with the Eat Minion online for Hydrogen, that's just free clear all day long. Purples, shield buffs, even Harpy camps, things like that. It's going to be tough for the Valkyries to make any kind of play onto the Weavers here, especially with Grave making rotations. I mean, I don't see much of an impact being made on this right side of the lane with Aquarius on this Odin. Especially against Grave. A great yank in there onto Wowie, nearly under tower, chunking down the Hunter there for the Valhalla Valkyries. But as I was saying, this left-hand lane is kind of just a wash.
Yeah, that was a very good pull from Promise. Unfortunately, not enough damage just yet to secure those kills, but you got to be careful of those things. I don't think too many of those opportunities will arise as this game goes on. But I do agree with you. I think the jungler is also kind of the same mind of you, Dimes. You can see they're paying a little bit more attention towards this blue buff right now. Grave's trying to get active. He's taking some damage here.
Grave's taking a bunch of damage. Charging forward is Mass on the Thor. Notably very aggressive. Aquarius has made the rotation as well. Grave under half HP. And no crushing wave to escape danger. A great jump in. Slam down for Mass. A little Berserker's Barrage action. And that's going to put Grave in the ground. Grave in the grave, if you will. Now Remikami locked in the cage. No cavalry charge for the escape. Aquarius dropping low. Mass isn't quite done with this one yet. Dash away. Mass off the mark. Teleport doesn't come through from the jungler for the Valkyries. And Remikami going to be able to escape with his life. Not the same here for the blue buff.
Yeah, blue buff is a successful invade. That starts off of the Weavers invading the Valkyries. Unfortunately, they end up losing a little bit more than they gained there. Buff goes down, Grave goes down. It's a net win for the Valkyries. They walk out with the First Blood bounty. Feeling pretty good about that one. Unfortunate for Mass on that hammer toss. If he was just a little bit faster, Definitely could have caught him with the wall. Probably found a kill there. He was patient through that whole fight. If you watched, he waited until Grave had expended the beads before he even thought about getting into that fight. Now the Subwa has no beads. Tier 2 of the Doom Orb. A little bit behind Mask. Mask now has level 5 Anvil of Dawn available. Expect to see some bigger rotations coming out. And notably, he hasn't gone for the Transcendent strategy that we've seen from a lot of these Thor players. Mask has instead opted for the Jotun's Wrath. He's going for the power. He's going for the CDR. He wants to be active in this game early on. And when you look at this game, if you look at a Hubwa in the jungle and a Bakasura in your long lane, I think that's absolutely the right decision to make. Grave trying to take the fight to Masked.
Grave a little bit out of position here, charging forward. Gamma with the lockdown, knock up onto Grave. Gamma's kind of soloing Grave here. Here comes the Anvil of Dawn. Mask up in the air, looking for it. Who's going to be the target of Smashdown? Decides to cut that one off short as Grave was just a little bit too deep in the jungle there. And Spooky, I was going to ask, as Regurgitate comes out from Hydrogen here, just to clear the wave. And that actually sets up this point perfectly. Hydrogen elected to go that blink start instead of the beads, despite the great lockdown coming out from the Valkyries here. Do you think that's going to come back to bite him before level 12? And before he can get the beads online? I mean, it's going to be only Regurgitate for that CC immunity on the left side of the map. Could really play a factor.
Well, as a Bakasura, he typically should be the one doing the biting. It's kind of his whole thing. But it depends
Production,
on...
Can you mute Spooky?
It depends on when he decides to go in, right? If you see Gamma leave the lane, great. You can blink on forward and get aggressive onto Wowie. We just saw them trade ultimates there. Regurgitate was used for the CC immunity to make sure that Wowie didn't have any kill pressure there. Actually almost turned around onto Wowie with the additional minions that he got from that. Hydrogen is in a position where he can kind of look for some of these fights. He's a level up right now. He's got the Golden Blade now, so his clear is going to be a little bit better. He just has to make sure that he's being mindful of where the Valkyries are at. If you want to look for a fight in this lane, you got to have great vision. And you have to have better vision than normal, right? Normally you'd say, okay, well, I need to clear these paths, make sure there's no one rotating in on me. You're against an Odin in this case. It's very easy for Wowie to bait out the Regurgitate with the CC immunity by just dropping the Wild Hunt on him. Okay, well, that's down. Mask comes crashing down from the sky. Hydrogen didn't know he was there. That's really the X factor when it comes to this lane, is how active is Mask going to be looking at these lanes for ganks. We know he wants to get active. We know he wants to be aggressive. And I do think this dual lane is one of the best places that he could be looking right now. We're 7 minutes in. Gold Fury is starting to be a more tenable process for both these teams. If you can kill Hydrogen, this team on the Valks can really burn an objective down fast. You can see Mask starting to make his way over here as well.
Hydrogen leaping in place there, and you might notice a little bit of showmanship coming out here from the Tyrian Weavers. You know, we were talking pregame about the Valhalla Valkyries, 3-1 on the year, or on the split, I should say. Really looking to lock down that second place. As Aquarius getting aggressed on here by Grave, an easy jump out though, doesn't even have to blow the cage on that one. Hydrogen burning that Regurgitate just once again to clear the wave. CC immunity goes bye-bye here. Blink online, but a great lockdown there from the Brambles out of Wowie. Make sure that Hydrogen can't aggress any further. Thor is quite deep here in this left side lane. Maybe looking for an Anvil of Dawn over the top here, Spooky.
He's buying his time. He's checking these respawns, seeing if there's any buffs available. With how close the Weavers are to their tower, though, doesn't look like he's going to find too much value on that gank. Instead, opts to just take one of those roaming harpies. Now looking to cut off Grave. Great wall. Not going to have any follow-up, though. Surprising. Oh, he's in the air.
Anvil. Yep, Anvil of Dawn being channeled. Smash down onto 2 priority targets here. Mask forced outside, though. Grave coming through with the crushing wave. Shots firing through the wall here out of Crimson on the Tiamat. And Promise charging forward, but can't find much of it. So junglers and mid laners trade out ultimates. Crimson's still healthy, still looking for the aggression in this middle lane. Just a little bit of a harpy fight there, Spooky. But I want to circle back around to what I was just about to mention before. A little bit of action popped off around the map. No, I think a circle is more pleasing to the eye. The Weavers 2-2 here, Spooky. Valhalla Valkyries 3-1. would love to lock down that second place spot and secure their path to Masters. The Tyrian Weavers kind of in this awkward middle ground where they're not the bottom two, they're not getting relegated to the SOC. They're also not in the top two, so they're not going to SMITE Masters. So this is practice for them, right? This is trying to shore up some strategies, maybe try some things out. So all they are, really, is a thorn in the side of the Valhalla Valkyries. Their job, their role here in this game is to try to stick it to the Valks, to make it their path to Masters as hard as humanly possible. And that's why we may see, Hydrogen on this Bakasura, Grave taking the Habwa into the jungle, things like that. Maybe a little bit more of aggressive, kind of cocky play coming out from the Weavers because they don't have a ton to lose here. They're locked into the SEC, but they have a plenty to gain if they can take out the Valkyries. That is certainly a notch in their belt.
Yeah, this is certainly more of a proving match for the Weavers. This is where they step up to the SPL talent and say, no big deal, we can handle that. So far, they've been doing a pretty good job of it. Mass, once again, in the air, looking for a target. It might be Hydrogen.
Oh, Hydrogen out of position, but what a leap there out of the Bakasura. Perfectly timed, going to get him out of dodge there. And that Thor ultimate's going to be on cooldown for the next minute and change, making sure that Hydrogen can stay safe on this left side of the map. And, I bring all of that up, Spooky, to just, are you kind of curious here on the lack of aggression from both sides on this map? I mean, are we just playing to comps here, or, why are both these teams so afraid to hit the gas pedal?
I don't think it's so much that they're afraid as they're unconcerned. You look at both teams, you both have very strong late game gods here. Habwa, Artigris on the side of the Weavers. Marty, maybe a little bit less strong than your traditional mid lane pick in the late game. Over on the Valkyries, you've got Crimson on the Tiamat.
Sure.
For my money, one of the best late game mages just in the game, hands down. So much utility, so much damage, the ability to kind of role swap depending on what you need to do in a fight. The Valkyries have no problems at all taking this game very late. And the later it goes, the more CDR Aquarius is going to have on this Odin. The more we're going to be seeing 2 cages being dropped in a fight. Okay, drop one, get out the Phantom Shells. Great. It's on like a 30-second CD at this point. Let's back off, wait, re-engage. Weavers have no way out of that aside from Hydrogen and Tripno can go into the air to stall out for some time. Valkyries would love for this game to just keep cruising the way it is until they hit the 30-minute mark. They're slightly ahead, mostly even. That's still a very comfortable position for a team like the Valkyries. Whereas the Weavers on the other side, they've got really good dive. They have the tools to get active on the backline. They have ways to pressure Wowie on this Guan Yu. Promise, though, is the one being looked at. Some support. Violence. Oh!
Slamming down his mask onto 2 members. Great falls low, forced into that crushing wave just to escape danger. Shoving forward is Tripno, though. So much damage coming out of Marty here. Moving back in his Grave. Gamma can't find the final shots on the jungler. And Crimson and Mask both able to escape with slivers of their HP bar intact there. The Weavers are stymied yet again, aren't able to find the first kill in this game. And really not that much traded for it. I mean, they got some relics, sure, but Ultimate's online for the Valkyries. And they're going to have plenty of re-engage when they come back from the base.
Say stymied?
Yeah.
You sure it's not stymied? No?
I'm Googling it, man.
Oh my goodness. Well, while you're Googling, Gamma's going to take a fall there. Tripno puts one on the board for the Weavers. That's the answer back that team's been looking for. And once again, it's like you said, not a whole lot invested for it. They kind of just found Gamma kind of on his own there, a little bit out of position. Sure, the team was around, but they weren't going to be able to really stop that from happening. Weavers finally have an answer. And you take a look here, Tripno, he's coming online pretty well right now. He's got a Transcendence fully stacked. He's got a Soul Eater, so he's looking for some sustain as well there. Weavers certainly have items to their name. Valkyries, like we said, they're even in this game as far as gold is concerned. As far as levels are mostly concerned. A little bit of a deficit there in the duo lane. Aquarius, target, no!
Oh, what a great wall there from Aquarius. Intercepts the crushing wave, but water hands through the wall. That's not going to stop it. Grave getting smacked down on and obliterated by Mass, who 100-0s the enemy jungler there. a turnaround, and Graves didn't even pick up that kill on Aquarius. That went the way of Rimakami. So that kill isn't really going to make its way onto the rest of the map like it will by putting a second kill on a Mask.
Man, that is just tragic. Beautiful cage from Aquarius. If I am Grave in that situation, I don't know. I'm having some timeout moments after that. I'm probably muting, deafening. I'm writing an email to hi-rez about Odin ult. But good on Mask, making the counter rotation there. Just like you said, he gets a little bit more active. He's got now 2 kills to his name. Transcendence not quite fully stacked. He's at 35. Be getting there in no time at all. Investing heavily into this mace tree. Pyromancer also being looked at. Good pull.
Wow.
Not much. Wait, what?
Tyrian, the Pyromancer was leashed that entire time, Spooky, and a single auto attack is going to secure it for the Tyrian Weavers, who aren't quite done with this one. Aquarius, the new target here, able to leap under the tier 1 tower, but Hydrogen wrapping around the corner here, regurgitate, auto attacks coming through. Tripno putting the finishing touches on one, finds a second for themselves there, and Crimson forced out, crushing wave, not enough damage to really get things going on to Crimson here. Gamma's not quite satisfied with letting Grave get out scot-free there, but who cares? 5 members of the Tyrian Weavers grouping up under a tier 2 tower. A late rotation here from Wowie. Bramble Blast. Here comes the Wild Hunt. Gamma back in onto Tripno, who's 2 levels ahead of this Wowie. Not exactly the smartest fight to take here. Dash forward in the meantime. Hydrogen and Grave so low, but Crimson just completely out of mana is going to be forced to back there. Same thing goes for Gamma and Wowie with their low health bars. Combination of Tripno, Rimakami, and Promise don't allow them to press forward. And what a tough fight there from the Valhalla Valkyries. They start up the Pyro, leash it, let it go. Tyrian Weavers, rather, confirm it. And then just low health bars and mana bars really spell the fight.
I'm not even sure why they gave that Pyromancer up there, Dimes, because it was so low when they walked away. Hydrogen should be taking a spill. No.
Oh,
okay.
Aquarius with the lockdown. There it is.
It's like the Olympics right there. Aquarius finds the last shot. But that Pyromancer honestly shouldn't have gone the way of the Weavers. They could have just finished it off. Now, Weavers looking for a Gold Fury.
And we're not quite done here. Erupt Crimson forced down the backline.
Wowie
dropping low. Tripno, death from above, takes out the Wowie there. Grave with the crushing wave through. Gamma with the knock up. Gamma with the knock down onto Grave. Falling low though. Dashes in for the heal. Aquarius has made the rotation from solo lane. Tripno getting auto attacked down by this Odin the Allfather. Finds Marticarus in the backline. Rimakami is going to be the next target. Crimson ripping through Rimakami, masked to find the final shot onto the solo laner. And the door is wide open now for the Gold Fury, originally started by the Weavers, going the way of the Vows.
Weavers got a little bit overconfident there, I'd say. They had a good fight. They stepped forward, found their targets, put Wowie down effectively. But they went a little bit too deep for it. They put themselves in a bad position. Grave got caught in that Odin cage. Sure, Tripno was up in the sky, but that really just meant that the Valkyries didn't have a second target to worry about. They just looked over at Grave and said, well, I guess we'll just take what we can get here. Almost got his way out, but beautiful positioning from Gamma. And after that first one fell, it was positioning that mattered there, Dimes. The Weavers were spread out, and that allowed the Valkyries just kind of swarm over a single target at a time. Tripno was unfortunately the first one, and now Wowie might be the second.
Wowie over the top there with the Wild Hunt. A great Bramble Blast to lock down Hydrogen for just long enough to stop Wowie's death. And now Hydrogen's in a bad way. And Will of Dawn isn't going to connect, a blink away, but where's the hammer coming through? Mask. I don't think Mask knows where Hydrogen is. And Hydrogen having to burn the relic, but able to escape with their life there. That's certainly a worthwhile trade.
Hydrogen just took 3 ultimates from the Valkyries. Right. 3 ults for regurgitate. I am regurgitating after watching that. Like, that was disgusting. Now, another ult comes through. Valkyries in a bad spot.
Caught the hammer from Mask, too. Able to walk away, though. Not enough follow-up off of that great ultimate from the Sylvanas there. Did you see that catch the hammer? That was sick out of Promise. Mask was in a bad spot there. Able to just walk away out of it, though. And the tough thing is, though, Pyromancer not back online. Fire Giant not really doable here as we tick over to 19 minutes. I mean, it's dead even for all intents and purposes. And looks like the Tyrian Weavers are going to try to attempt this Pyromancer, but here come the Valhalla Valkyries. regrouped up, re-healed up. But this Pyromancer is dropping so quickly. Weaver's able to take it no problemo there. Do they grab the Runic Bomb? Looks like they did. Goes the way of the Sylvanas there on Promise. And now the Valhalla Valkyries. Behind to the tune of about 700 gold here at 19 minutes. Kills the way of the Valkyries. Level lead. Just slightly the way of the Weavers. And once again, I mean, for pretty much dead even across the board here as far as the Weavers and the Valks are concerned.
Shockingly, the biggest lead is in the duo lane, and it is for Hydrogen, 2 levels up over Wowie right now on this Bakasura. The range difference has not mattered. He's simply been taking the fight to Wowie. Look at Wowie. He's all the way back there. He doesn't want any of this smoke. He's not dealing with that. He's going to get some more levels online before he tries to mess with this Bakasura. And granted, Hydrogen has the Bladed Boomerang online. He's got some crit to his name. Right now, he just hits a little bit harder than Wowie does, who's just going for Pen right now. And the Pen builds don't have quite as much effect against squishy targets as they do against the tanky ones. Those are really the targets you're building the Xe and the Chin size for, is to take down the big tanks, which in this game is Promise and Remakami. Still going to do good damage to Grave Tripno and Hydrogen, but crit is going to outburst him right now, and he's aware of that. He's trying to keep his distance and not allow Hydrogen to get any extra gold. Right now, he's more than happy to give the XP up. He'll get that as the game goes on. They will scale to 20 at some point. As long as he's not giving an item advantage over to the Weavers, Valkyries are still looking good. But as we approach the 20.5-minute mark, it's been 1 Gold Fury to the Valkyries, 2 Pyromancers to the Weavers. Only 1 bomb, though, currently for the Weavers. They don't have the double secure potential. That is a boon for the Valkyries around these objectives. Likely at this game state, we're going to see a fight for the Primal Fury before we see a fight around that Fire Giant. But you could just see him pinged out there at the same time. I think both teams are thinking the same thing. If you see someone on that Primal Fury, check them. If you see 4 people over there, it might just be a Fire Giant rush.
We're talking about objectives here, Spooky. The Tyrian Weavers haven't lost one yet in terms of towers on the map, as this Primal Fury is going to be started up here by Hydrogen and Tripno. And that combination of Bakasura and Marticarus is lethal here on this Primal Fury. Who's going to grab the secure? It's going to be a coin flip. Valhalla Valkyries with that Wild Hunt right over the top is going to take down the Primal Fury there. And curious, the Tyrian Weavers were able to let that one go without a fight. I mean, they were in great position for a bait, maybe a crushing wave coming through, but no, just a coin flip, and it goes the way of the Valks.
Oh, Promise did not have his ultimate, and Rebakami was not in the area as well there. So I think Weavers just didn't really want to get too aggressive without having the tools of their front line available for them. It sucks that they lost the Fury, but nothing was really committed into it, so it's not a catastrophic loss. And the separation there isn't too big either. Look at the gold. It's still dead even in the game right now. Hydrogen blinking forward, looking for a Wowie.
Looking for Wowie and finding Wowie, but what a great ultimate in and a knock up there out of Gamma, rotating in as Aquarius and Masked. Hydrogen just in the worst place possible. Grave might find himself between a rock and a hard place as well here. Crushing Wave not going to be available through that Odin Wall. A great Phantom Shell keeps Grave alive for just a second longer. Now Remakami between 3 members of the Valkyries forced onto that horse to sprint away. Run, Remakami, as Aquarius chases after. And a couple of missteps here out of the Tyrian Weavers. Hydrogen a little too big for their britches there. Grave follows right after the Bakasura. Drops down into the ground. Pyromancer online. Same thing goes for the Fire Giant. Valhalla Valkyries looking to capitalize on this 3v5.
Rotational power is so massive from the Valkyries. Gamma just completely destroy that entire fight. The Weavers are still looking for a way in. Remakami and Promise are together. Tripno being pushed out in the back, and oh my god, the ultimate comes out as well.
And
they don't have a way in.
The Valhalla Valkyries are on the Fire Giant. They're chunking it down. Gamma still leashing it. Wowie throwing autos at the Giant objective. Tripno locked into the Odin cage here. Mast has joined the fray as well. The crucial mid laner for the Weavers goes into the ground. Promise dropped down to the likes of Wowie as well. Anvil of Dawn smashing down. Doesn't connect with Hydrogen, but the wall certainly is going to scratch that. A misplay there from Master. I don't even know if that's a misplay or just a great juke out of Hydrogen. ends up finding the grayscale there, courtesy of Aquarius. Rimakami turns it back around, Erupt Crimson falls to Grave. And the Tyrian Weavers have taken a bad fight and turned it their way here. Grave, the next target. Masked, locking down Rimakami. Certainly not who you want to be targeting, though. Grave knocked up and knocked down by Aquarius. It's going to be a wash here. I mean, only Rimakami surviving, but the Valkyries, not enough juice to take on this Fire Giant.
Make no mistake here, Dimes. The Valkyries could have finished that Fire Giant.
Sure.
That could have been their Fire Giant, and they could have simply won the fight afterwards or disengaged and reset and had a great position on the map. They chose to leave the Fire Giant. Wowie was still DPSing when the rest of his team stepped out, left him to tank the Fire Giant. I said, "No, we're gonna look for the kills instead." All right, I can see a world where it works out, right? Unfortunately, that world did not come to fruition because Mast missed the Anvil of Dawn, then missed the Tectonic Rift.
I don't think you can use it.
Yeah, if you're going to be making the decision to take the fight instead of securing that Fire Giant, you can't be missing those. Like, that just can't happen. A little bit silly from the Valkyries, but they've got time to come back from it. Fire Giant, though, is still a contestable objective on the board as a result. That's what this really boils down to. Because they didn't secure the objective, nor handily win that fight, Masked?
Oh, well, speaking of handily winning fights here, Grave takes out Masked with literally not a drop of HP going the way of the jungler there. A straight-up 1v1 gets handily won by Grave. Now it's going to be a 4v5 here, Spooky, for the next 40 seconds. Valhalla Valkyries at a disadvantage. But, I mean, Masked wasn't really even involved in that prior team fight, and the Valkyries still came out on top. Really eyes on the mid laner, Aquarius, and Wowie to do plenty of damage. Gamma looking for some peel here. Rimakami locked down by Aquarius. And there's that damage coming out from Crimson. I mean, on a promise as well. That's your tank. And this Tiamat is shredding through targets with that Soul. Reaver online, got some penetration. Good anti-heal as well. As the Pyromancer goes the way of the Tyrian Weavers, shoring up that gold lead a little bit. Brings it right near even. Crimson dropping down here. A Wild Hunt to separate the fight. Crimson is out, but Rimakami is giving chase. Hydrogen has to leap away as well. Wowie being targeted down by 3 members of the Tyrian Weavers. No shot. This Kernanos escapes with his life. Tripno takes out Wowie. Hunter on Hunter violence there. Masked in the air. Waiting to crash back down. Does so onto Grave's head. The Habwa finds their way to the grayscale for 50 seconds. Tripno and Rimakami being forced backwards. As Gamma is not quite done, Erupt Crimson has survived this entire team fight. Somehow finds a return kill in the backline. And now Tripno also finds death, courtesy of Aquarius. But what a wild and wacky fight that was. It's squarely in the way of the Tyrian Weavers. And just a total separation from the Wild Hunt, Spooky. Flips it on its head.
Yeah, a wild fight from a wild hunt there. Truly sums it up. I really like where the Weavers were going there. They found Crimson and they identified that big target. They needed Crimson to be out of the fight. Unfortunately, Crimson is not a player who's scared of a low health bar. You got him down to 15%. Okay. For Crimson, that's just 14% extra that he has right now to work with. Stays in the fight and just kept casting over those walls. That's one of the big strengths of this team, as everything can come out over a wall from complete safety on top of the CC immunity. Now Rimakami steps too far forward. Masked in the skies, crashes down. Rimakami no longer in this world. 4-1-8 is this mid laner. But Rimakami has bought some time. Promises here. Rest of the team is coming up. Valkyries have to shred this quickly.
And all the Valkyries need is Wowie on this Fire Giant, doing plenty of damage to the objective, but here comes Grave, and the Weavers are going to grab the Fire Giant, courtesy of the crushing wave out of Grave. He'll pay for it with his life, but who cares? Stripping away the Fire Giant off of the Valhalla Valkyries, screaming worth is Grave. I'm not sure if that was a great play by Grave or bad zoning from the Valk, Spooky.
Do you want me to answer that? Do you want me to tell you exactly what that was? It was horrible zoning from the Valkyries.
Phenomenal.
They had Promise zoned off, and they just said, well, what if we just tried to kill the tank instead of the Fire Giant? Oh, that's what happens. Grave blinks in, finds a crushing wave into the Fire Giant, steals it away from you, and now Hydrogen just gets to take objectives for free. I don't know why the Valkyries have such a fixation on trying to kill the guy who steps up, the tankiest member who steps up to this objective. Promise isn't going to be stealing that Fire Giant away from you, okay? It's not going to happen. Just put Aquarius on him, let Gamma sit on him, and then the rest just take down the Fire Giant. It was so low, and the Valkyries just didn't secure it. They just chose not to go ahead and burn it the rest of the way down. And now they must deal with the consequences of their own actions. Now it's 3 members of the Weavers with the Fire Giant. Not quite a gold lead, but they do have an advantage that they have one of the biggest buffs in the game around their waist right now. Not the Enhanced Fire Giant just yet. Could be worse, but it's not the situation that the Valkyries wanted to be in at 29 minutes into this game. Gold lead doesn't exist in that regard. XP somewhat in favor of the Valkyries,
negligible.
but at this point, it's just the supports lagging behind level 20, so you're not really relying on that as a big boost to your team fight. It's all around this left side now. Valkyries can still defend the tier 2. Gonna have to do it against 3 with Fire Giant. It's on 2 damage dealers. Gonna be a little bit of a dangerous dance to be partaking in.
And any team with an Odin, I'm going to give them definitely ups on the defense. I mean, you just separate a fight out with the Odin cage, lock someone under the tower. It's a good look for the Valhalla Valkyries, who are looking to defend this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side. You got a tier 2 on the right-hand side, though, as well. With minions pushing up. That might be something to keep your eyes on. Tyrian Weavers not willing to push any farther on this left-hand side, just deciding to back off there, spin the gold that I'm sure they have in hand. Hydrogen dashing forward onto Mass. Rimikami doesn't find the stun onto the jungler there, but now locked away from the ADC of his own team. Mast just standing, looking, regretting. As Rimikami runs away into the jungle of the Valhalla Valkyries here. And, you know, Spooky, this just, for me, this just goes to cement how tight the SCC in North America is. I mean, the skill gap between these teams is really impressive, really, that it's so close. I mean, game to game to game. We're talking about the 2-2 Tyrian Weavers and the 3-1 Valhalla Valkyries. I mean, just one victory separating them. The Valkyries only dropping to the undefeated, or no, the 4-1 or 3-1, 4-1 Athenian Sages. I mean, the top team in the region for sure. And the Weavers, honestly, taking it to the Valkyries here. The Valkyries have something to gain. The Weavers, not really. They're just playing for fun and experience here, and they're fighting just like this is a world championship bout.
Yeah, and I think this is a good time to go ahead and state, you know, Weavers are doing this with a draft that I was absolutely down on. I don't think it's any secret that I was not a fan of their draft when they locked in, well, the Sylvanas, nor when I saw the Hydrogen piloting Bakasura. But the fact of the matter is that this game is even. The Weavers are making use of this draft. They're taking the pieces that they've built for themselves, and they're putting it into practice. They're finding some measure of success. Rimikami, though, is being collapsed on by 4 members.
Rimikami, the target, but tanky is this solo lane Guan Yu, and a lot burned, a lot expended to try to take down Rimikami on the front-hand side there. Mass in the backline, shredded down by Hydrogen, forced into that Aegis, able to hammer away, but Grave with a blink and a knock-up to take out the jungler. Crushing Wave connects with 2 members. Another 2-member knock-up there out of Promise on the Sylvanas. Crimson free cast in the backline. Wowie, dropping to Rimikami. Aquarius forced out of this fight.
Guys
up in the air, safe for a little bit longer. Hydrogen puts the finishing touches on Erupt Crimson. And a tough target selection there to kick things off here, Spooky. The Weavers capitalize.
The Valkyries were just so split up for this entire fight. Wowie completely left on his own. The backliners not together. Now the Valkyries have to try to find a way back to their base. Look at the way they've split off. But Gamma realizes he has to come back because the Weavers are pushing straight down the middle.
Spooky, this could be game. Only 2 tanks. Aquarius and Gamma here for the base defense. Cages down, Hydrogen leaping in, but that's not going to last for much longer. Auto attacks running through, Gamma falling low. Who even needs to kill the tanks, though? The Tyrian Weavers are on the Titan. The Tyrian Weavers are going to take game number 1 against the Valkyries.
Well, Dimes, the Weavers learned an important lesson that I think the Valkyries would do very good to pick up and put in their own books.
Okay.
When faced with the decision between killing A, the tanks,
Uh-huh.
or B, the objective,
Mm-hmm.
killing the objective gets you a little bit further, and in this case, gives the Weavers a game 1 victory.
I mean, do you attribute that final fight there to the Valkyries kind of tunnel visioning on Remikami and the rest of the Weavers collapsing onward, or how would you draw that up, Spooky?
I would draw it up as them tunnel visioning in on, once again, a tank
I should be an analyst.
committing much too much for it. And then on the retreat, that's where the biggest problem was. The retreat. It wasn't a unified pull back. They started pulling out one at a time, and it ended up as this, rather than a single group, it was more of a stretched out column of Valkyries that were going up the lane. And it was just perfect pickings for the Weavers to come in and just kind of roll them up in their little web and start snacking on them there. They just kind of liquefied them and slipped them into their little spider bodies.
All right, I think we're done there, Spooky. You can stop. Hydrogen 1-4-4, certainly not the most impressive showing on this Bakasura. Did great in lane, level lead, transitioned okay to the mid game and the late game, but it was certainly, eyes on Tripno and Grave doing tons of damage, and Remikami creating space in the back line. But Spooky, promise, on the Sylvanas, you were not a believer. Where's your mind at?
I think, okay, this is going to feel like a cop-out. I think Hydrogen was sneaky good on the Bakasura.
Sure.
Because a lot of what we saw was Mask going up, trying to come down onto Hydrogen, regurgitates for the CC immunity, no stun, more importantly, no hammer teleport after the fact. Just constantly baiting Mask into those bad situations, or baiting Wowie to use his ultimate only to just drop CC immunity and then walk away. Hydrogen was constantly pulling value from the Valkyries. And what that does was it set up for Promise to walk in and just be like, hey guys, I'm the tank you were trying to focus. Wrath of Terra, AoE knockup. It was just a lot of free value that I think the Valkyries could have adapted to a little bit better. If you know that those CC ultimates are being popped in response to your own, maybe try to pull them out with something else. Maybe try to set up something with Gamma, with Crimson. Granted, those CCs are a little bit harder to land. One, Crimson's team at stun is just kind of an odd hitbox.
Sure.
Two, Gamma has to put himself out of position to try to pull something. Mm-hmm. And most people aren't going to just be burning their ultimates to avoid a single Horus dash. It's a tough spot, but I think there's definitely room for this game to be very back and forth still as we go forward.
Well, the Valkyries, Spooky, have a little bit of work to do if they want to draw this one to a game number 3 and lock up number 2 seed for themselves as we head towards SMITE Masters here in just a little bit. We're going to go to a quick break. Stick around, though. Game 2 of Valks and Weavers coming at you in just a sec.
Holding tight while it lasted. I thought that we were forever. I didn't know any better. Took a second chance, trusted you again. I feel shattered. Broken strings, cause you play me like a violin. Shame on me for all your 7 deadly sins. Had it all, but you craved attention. Drowning in your own reflection. Put me down just to see me get back up again. 6 feet under and you're ready to give all the pain. If I was your new addition, you make me part of your equation. Shattered from the past, wish you were my last. Shatter me to pieces like broken glass. used to feel, but this isn't real. Now we're over. Take it all, there's nothing left here anyway. We used to talk, but now we don't know what to say. Now we're just two passing strangers. We tried, you lied, goodbye forever. Put me down just to see me get back up again. 6 feet under and you're ready to give all the pain. If I was your new addition, you make me part of your equation. Shattered from the past, wish you were my last. Shattered me to pieces like broken glass.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back into the SMITE Challenger Circuit North America Edition, week number 5. We're wrapping things up here, or at least for SMITE Saturday, with the Weavers and the Valhalla Valkyries. Spooky, you're over there. I'm Dimes. I'm right here. And we just witnessed a Weavers game number 1 victory over the powerhouse Valkyries. Kind of in a, I'm not going to say surprise fashion, because the Weavers have looked great all split long, but certainly in a back and forth fashion.
I mean, I'll certainly call it a surprise. I wasn't expecting the Bakasura ADC to show up like that.
Yeah, that was a shock.
It did everything it needed to do, really. Weavers put themselves in a good position. They have momentum going through this match now, and I don't know if that's exactly how they expected that particular draft to go, but even if it wasn't, they can hardly complain about the results. The question now is, to the Valkyries, do you look to ban any of those tools out? In my mind, I think it was just a gameplay thing. I think if they tried pushing the gas a little bit harder, a little bit faster, and not letting that Habois scale quite so much to the point that it was simply half healthy and wowie with a single water cannon,
sure,
your late game fights probably go a little bit better. Maybe if Wowie had gone into a little bit more crit rather than the pen build, goes a little bit better for them, as well as there were quite a few squishy targets to look at. We only have one way to find out, don't we, Dimes?
That's right. Picks and bans headed our way. There's only one way to know how these compositions are going to shake up. And I'm curious to see if these Weavers are going to pull out another janky pick, right? Because 2-2, kind of in that weird middle ground where you're really just playing to stymie the Valkyries, Spooky.
Okay.
As the Vamana's taken off the table here. I mean, nothing felt compositionally wrong from the Valkyries, right? Nothing felt like it needed a giant adjustment, or maybe, you put this player on this other god or anything like that. It just felt like an on-game play, in-game play that really didn't turn up for the Valkyries. Aphrodite off the board, knocks off the board, and it looks like it's going to be a repeat of bans from game number 1 here. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Weavers pulled out something goofy here in game 2.
I think rather than trying to change what player is on what god, you just change what player is on what objective as you get to them.
You're really hooked onto that, aren't you?
I am very hooked on it, Times. That was the biggest problem. It was absolutely just a gameplay issue that cost the Valkyries. And it's not to say that their gameplay was bad or that they are bad themselves. Sure. It's just that they made a couple errors in judgment that they now have to recognize and adapt to. They have to change that thinking going forward. It does seem they're already starting to change a little bit of that thinking. Ramakami, not going to be able to run back that Guan Yu. That's banned away from him. So is that Hercules. A few things still left on the board. Notably, Mask can still go back to that Thor, which he did have very good success with in the early game. I wouldn't complain about that at all.
Sure.
Also, this Yamoja that's still available. Some healers on the board as well. Terra, Hell, all could be looked at right now. Both top-tier ADCs, Kurtanos and Ishtar, are available as well. Just a matter of, will the Weavers actually look for a hunter, or will they look for another assassin?
Well, they definitely looked for a hunter in the middle lane, but they banned out their Maticarus, so that's not going to be on the board here. Taking away the Horus from Gamma, but Gamma already locking in the Emoja, which I love. I mean, Gamma has been solid at every level of play that they've stepped into. Love seeing them on something like the emoji here. Strip away the Thor from Mask. But, you kind of hailed Mask Thor. All I remember is the Misdanible of Dawns, the kind of weird play, the getting locked down as soon as you, land from that ultimate. I wouldn't mind seeing Mask on something else, and now Mask has no other choice that the Thor's locked in for the Weavers here. That'll go into grave. I mean, with Ishtar and Kurtanos, it seems like you have to take... Or maybe just a shot back at the Weavers here as Bakasura is locked in. There's absolutely no shot WoW. He's taking that in the ADC role. That is for sure Masked, and there's going to be the Rama pickup for WoW.
No, this is actually big brain here, Dimes. This is actually WoWy taking the Bakasura.
No.
And Crimson is going to take the Ram. You see, they've picked them next to each other to bait the Weavers into thinking exactly what you were thinking. So honestly, you both got. In seriousness,
thank you.
I do agree. I do agree that Mass is likely to take this Bakasura into the jungle. Wowie, known ROM player, known ROM enthusiast even. I like seeing this for him. A little bit safer, goes up into the sky if he really needs a way to get out of dodge. And have to drop back down into dodge eventually, but it buys you some time at the very least. And when you pair it with the Yamoja, there's a lot you can do with these two. So much space is created, or even locked off with this duo lane. Weavers, I'd expect, want to get a little bit aggressive in this early game, try to prevent them from scaling up, because if you let this duo lane specifically reach late game, things are looking pretty tough for you around those objectives.
Well, the Hobblaw's picked up yet again here for the Weavers, and that makes me kind of maybe start kicking around the idea that Thor perhaps headed into the solo lane. Maybe see Grave pick up. I mean, Grave did great on the Hobwa come mid to late game. Great positioning in team fights, great damage as well. Did about 10k more than Mast on the Thor. So it wouldn't be absolutely... I wouldn't despise that pickup, but most likely Hobwa headed into the middle lane here. The Charybdis pickup, we haven't seen this pick in the Smite Challenger circuit in quite a while, but I mean, this Ishtar and Izanami bans with the top two hunters, Ishtar and Kanonos, I mean, uncontested top two hunters still on the board. Kind of kooky to me that you go for this Jingwei Izanami and then Charybdis is the next pickup.
Well, I mean, last time Ishtar was available and Hydrogen went for Bakasura. So,
fair enough.
I mean, I'm not sure what more to say to that one. I think Hydrogen right now is just playing picks that he likes. Just wants to play the Charybdis, so he's going to play the Charybdis. It does additionally have some good value into the Yamoja and the Ram. That Whirlpool form can go under the player-made walls, so it can just slip out from under the River's Rebuke. It can also be used effectively to avoid the Astral Barrage from Ram once he's in the air. And most importantly, It keeps going here, Dimes. It can be used while crippled. It's not a movement ability. So if Boxer comes in and regurgitates on Charybdis, didn't like that sentence. She can just go into the whirlpool form and slide her way on out of that. There's a lot of safety in this pick. And with the tier, this may actually be the Thor support that I was thinking of.
All right, well, I mean, we got plenty to talk about here, Spooky. I've got stuff for the Valks. I've got stuff for the Weavers. Let's head into game number 2, and we can shake it all down on the battlefield here. The Tiamat and the Achilles locked in here. I mean, Crimson did like 40K plus. Fantastic pick. Love that. Talk me through this Achilles pickup for Aquarius. Is there a particular reason that maybe an Execute would be helpful into this Weaver's composition? Is this a comfort pick? What are we thinking?
I think the Executes are always just valuable to have. Regardless of what enemy composition you're going against, having an Execute is just good. You simply have to deal less damage before someone dies. It's always nice to have. Have to be a little bit mindful of the healing that this team does have, because there is good sustain. The last thing you want to do is go for that Execute and have them just pop out of the threshold. But that's the nice thing about Executes at the same time. They kind of pull double duty. They can simply get a little bit under that threshold, and now, okay, you can try to heal, but you are going to die. You're simply going to be executed, and your healing's not going to matter. You're not going to keep this team alive through sustain. The Valkyries are looking to take a fight and end that fight and not allow the Weavers to use out-of-combat healing to keep themselves topped off. Looking at Tripno here in the mid lane. This is Habois. Very squishy, very immobile. A very good target for the Valkyries to look at if they want to get someone ahead. And we've seen what Crimson can do, well, both from ahead and on this Tiamat. Things were mostly even for him last game. But if you can combine those two things here in game number 2, have a very good shot at victory and taking this to a 3-game set.
Looking at the Weaver's composition here, you know, you got 4 physical on the board, you've got 1 assassin, 2 warriors, and a hunter. Are you at all concerned as we, you know, push toward the mid and late game? We've got some time before we get there, obviously. The lack of, I mean, plenty of initiation, but the lack of real stick-to-itedness in team fights. You know, I mean, Promise and Remikami are going to drop down. Bakasura getting chunked out there, forced out. But are you concerned at all about maybe the more squishy Weaver's composition into the Valkyries?
I think they have enough frontline to pose a good threat. The Valkyries aren't going to be able to simply stack armor and laugh at the front line. Here, though, Remikami very low.
Shot. Not able to
get back. He's okay for now. No first blood just yet. But the presence of Tripno on this Habois means that magical procs are going to be a necessity for the Valkyries. You can't just say, okay, well, they only have 1 magic dealer. That's not a big deal. If you ignore those procs, your front line is going to get absolutely eviscerated. There's still definitely threat. There's still mixed procs that have to be taken into account. Remikami on this tier, he's going to be hard to ignore. If you try ignoring a tier that's walking at your backline, you're not going to have a backline for very long. You're going to be knocked up, pushed out of position, probably into Tripno.
Habois dropping low here, knocked up. Bakasura knocks him down as Tiamat gets it turned right back around on. But Graves going to be forced out by Bakasura leaping on top of his head there. And what a surprise, the level 4 Bakasura, who absolutely chunks with those Butcher Blades in the early game, takes out the very immobile Habois and Tripno there. Valhalla Valkyries find first blood for themselves in this crucial game number 2.
And Valkyries off to a strong start, but I can't do everything for them. They got first blood in game 1 as well. Didn't find a way to really accelerate that anywhere on the map. It still continued as an even game for a good 29 minutes. I'd like to see Master try to take this lead, this kill, take his 500 gold, look around the map, try to get some more invades off. Boxer is probably the best invade jungler in the game on account of Eat Minion, which you just see right there. The fact that he doesn't have to fully kill these camps, just gets to him to a threshold, swallows him up, almost as another execute, but only for minions. You can just get so much power farming done. He can strip so much away from the Weavers. And if you're looking to snowball, that's probably the best way to do it. Get yourself an early kill. First blood is just gravy. Start taking stuff away. Take things away from Grave. Make it so he doesn't hit level 5 as easily. Make it so he can't just ult into people and blow them up. That's going to be the key here. Just limiting how effective this door is going to be.
Speaking of blowing up, Gamma taking plenty of damage there from the combination of Horus and Charybdis. And you were mentioning Charybdis Whirlpool able to be used in the cripple field, right? So this Regurgitate from Bakasura not able to lock down the Hunter. Is that going to dissuade Mast from making rotations into this left-hand side, maybe focusing mid or solo lane, or is the left-hand side going to see plenty of action? Is actually Bakasura going to answer the question for me, as Mast has made the rotation to this shield buff, is going to be locked in between 3 members of the Weavers. Online is the leap, but great CC chain there from the Weavers. Bakasura jumps right in place. Here comes the Thor dunk right on the head of Mast, and that's exactly what we wanted to see from the Valkyries jungler in game number 1. Weavers return a kill on a very suspect play there.
Yeah, I see the idea there. He's trying to kind of bait out Grave. He was trying to get Grave to go down and just up down the ult. But I don't think he should have gone back onto Promise. That was a little bit sketchy. Put him in a bad spot there. Wasted a little bit of time. He could have been creating distance. But at the same time, where could he go, really? If he tries to run away from his team, that just means he's completely on his own with an extremely low health bar when Grave comes down from the ground. So he tries to stick a little bit closer. You want to stay between his teammates and try to find a way to punish Grave going in. Now, he's finding a way to punish Ramakami.
Oh, and Achilles punished there from a great juke from Ramakami. Execute not able to go off. Good on Mast for holding the Regurgitate there, waiting for the Lawbringer to come through, all the movement abilities, but just a little off the mark there from Aquarius. Surprising is Bakasura getting crushed by Tripno's Wave, who's made the rotation from the middle lane. The Tyrian Weavers taking their advantage and running with it here, 2-1. Just taking over 5 minutes in game number 2 here. Starting to build themselves a little bit of I guess, recovering from a slight deficit here and looking to build their own.
At Tripno, very good rotation there to punish Mast. And this is the thing, right? Bakasura has some mobility, but not a ton of it. Single jump, that's all you've got. You got your movement speed, but you have to kill stuff in order to get it. If Mast puts himself out of position and gets collapsed on like that, Weavers just have good CC chains to punish him. We saw it on that shield buff where he tries to eat the buff, gets CC'd out of it. All right, tries to eat it again, got stunned again. Poor man could not do anything there. Tries his luck over on this right side. Unfortunately, once the Regurgitate is down, you have no way to stop that CC from coming in on this Bakasura, and he just falls victim to it. Tripno has a ton of burst to capitalize on any CC that hits any targets right now. With our current state of the game, no one is particularly tanky. Gamma's going for the cloak there. Achilles has to ult defensively. Aquarius, no ultimate anymore. Weavers are just taking the fights across the map. They know they have the pressure right now. They're trying to utilize it. This is what the Valkyries were not able to do in their first game. And even in the second game here, they got their first blood. It's just been all Weavers on all the aggression.
Brave. Ultimate down for a little bit longer here. Tyr, no Lawbringer as well. Bakasura's made the rotation back in. Catches Tyr, not in the cripple field though. Walking down with those AoE autos. Heal coming out from Tyr. But Aquarius with the final shot to put Ramakami in the ground. Ties this thing up 2-2. But here comes Thor and Habwa. Tripno and Grave have made the rotation. Bakasura leap over the wall. Habwa, no blink available. It's going to be beats for both Grave and Tripno. Achilles might be in a tough spot here. No ultimate, no dash, and no hope as Tripno comes right through with that big-time ultimate. Takes out Aquarius. Emoji and Bakasura, it's just rotation central. This solo lane is just the place to be, man. It is the party. Habwa dropping low. One more shot out of Gamma is going to put Tripno in the ground. Thor, also the next target. No lockdown quite yet. Bakasura, you can feel the tension. You know the Baka wants to go in on this thing. A teleport in, a leap in from Bakasura. No escape for Thor. But Yamoja decides not to. Tyr making the rotation back. Just a little bit too sketch for Gamma and Mast to go in.
So tell me, Dimes, would you call that a big-time crush?
What?
A big-time crush. Would you call it a big-time crush? From Tripno. All right, I'm glad you agree with me on that one. But yeah, this solo lane has just been seen.
Did I just get baited?
Yes, you did.
All right, continue.
And the solo lane is still going. Like, what part of solo lane didn't these teams understand? There's supposed to be one person from each side, and instead there's been like 3 or 4 people. It's just constant fighting over on this right side of the map. And so far, it hasn't really led to either side having a true advantage. The Valkyries, I'm sorry, do lead slightly in gold, and a little bit in XP as well. It's not enough to comfortably say that they're ahead in this game. We saw this same game state in the first game, and it wasn't enough to get the Valkyries really anywhere. Here in game number 2, I don't imagine too much has changed. The Weavers are still showing plenty of fight, more than happy to step up to these Valkyries and look to get scrappy. They just need objectives on the map. That's the real main thing here. All these fights have been taking place, kills have been coming through, but the biggest objectives they've been able to look at are just these smaller buffs. Mask, potentially diving.
That's going to be Grave coming down onto the head of Achilles there. Spin to win. Puts Aquarius in the grayscale for 22 seconds here over the top. Unnecessary. Hubwa so low. Gamma wants it so
Tragic.
bad. Hubwa forced back into base. That's going to be a TKO for Tripno. And again, solo lane is just getting the brunt of the attention here from the junglers for both the Valks and the Weavers. Rama and Charybdis here on this left-hand side, pretty much left alone on an island to farm. A little bit of an advantage for Wowie here. Gold Fury's going to be started up. Regurgitate popped on the Gold Fury. Rama's made the rotation as well. Here comes Tiamat for the secure. And it is going to be a smooth and simple Gold Fury. The first objective goes the way of the Valkyries. Opens up a little bit more of a significant gold lead.
That was an incredible shred coming out from Valkyries. And that's what you get when you have a Bakasura and a Ram together. Tiamat has a little bit of that damage as well, but so much DPS potential from these two right now. And the Weavers knew, they had an idea that it was going on. They simply weren't able to get there in time. They had just reset. Promise, unfortunately, can't cover that much distance that quickly. It can move pretty far pretty quickly as a Horus, but the channel time is still something to be considered. Now, around this right side, Pyromancer is about to spawn. Weavers, you can tell they want it here.
I mean, Achilles has been the target all day long. 1, 2, and 0. Same thing goes for Mask 1, 2, and 2. On this right-hand side, it's been over and over rotations out of the Weavers, but you kind of said it before, it's no objectives to take over there. Like, yeah, you're getting Remikami a lead. It's Tiamat once again putting Hubwa low. I mean, Crimson's just running this middle lane here. But you're putting Remikami behind, or Aquarius rather. You're putting Aquarius behind. But nothing to take as the Valkyries target out this Pyromancer once again with the shred coming out from Bakasura. And the second objective of the game goes the way of the Valkyries. About a 4,000 gold lead. Call it. Bakasura's not done though. Onto Hubwa. Knocked up. But the beats. Oh! Whoa! My God! Tripno puts Mask down. That was the euthanization there. But Yamoja turns it right back around. Tripno dying to Gamma. Grave with the double tap there. Finishes off the support. And I mean, is it a wash? 2 members go down for the Valks, but they grab a Pyromancer. How do you draw that up, Spoon?
It's not great for the Valkyries, to say the least there. That's not the result you're looking for. What is this Goon Squad?
That's so tough for Achilles. As Promise just makes the rotation, use the Horus ultimate. That was phenomenal. There was nobody there, and then there was everybody there, and now Aquarius is dead.
Aquarius cannot win in this lane times. I mean, he's got to just laugh at it at this point.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
It is good for the Valkyries, though, that they got the objective on the right side there. The fact that they're the ones who have had their solo lane pressured the entire game, but they walk away with the Pyromancer, great look for them. Less good that Mask gets a little excited, it goes a little bit too deep, but they do end up trading out, right? They take Pyromancer and a kill onto Mask, end up losing to themselves. So it's not a Pyromancer for 2 kills. We'll call it a Pyromancer for a kill in that regard.
Fair enough.
But now they have a little bit more map pressure. They've gone ahead and used their Runic Bomb already, so they don't have that in their inventory anymore. Unlucky for the Valks that it is Gamma who got the kill rather than anyone else, really.
Yeah, literally anyone else. Well, map stayed here. Spooky taking over 13 minutes. Weavers with the kill advantage, but Valkyries certainly in the driver's seat gold-wise and experience-wise. A little bit of a lead in the middle lane, and that's where you'd love to see it. I mean, Crimson has been a standout performer time and time again. For this, I mean, even before this Valkyrie squad, pretty much any team that you find Crimson on, it's going to be a potent middle lane, right? So you're going to see a lead in the mid lane. You're going to see, a level advantage, a gold advantage. You're going to see great rotations coming out of Crimson. So if you want anyone to be ahead, it's a great person to put it on. Same thing goes for Wowie over there in the duo lane.
Yeah, Valkyries have certainly set themselves up for success right now. The lead itself isn't massive, but it's like you said, it's who it's on that matters for them. Most of the DPS right now, Crimson hasn't been able to find too many rotations just yet, and that is part of why he's ahead right now. Tripno's been making those rotations, contributing to some of those right lane shenanigans, we'll call them. Crimson's just been farming up. He's taken that mid lane tower. That's some global gold for his team. And when these fights do start breaking out, and those 5v5 fights are what the Valkyries look to play for, make no mistake, that is their bread and butter. They'll be very strong. Grave in the air.
Thor looking for a crash down, but the Weaver's not positioning to continue the fight here. So Thor able to just escape. Tiamat sending through some damage, but here comes Achilles with a rotation out of the solo lane. It's a full 5v5 for the first time in game number 2 here. Achilles is the target, but so tanky, able to use that execute to get out of dodge. Here taking tons of shred coming out from the Tiamat. Oh, what a great Riptide throwing Remikami back into the clutches of the Valkyries, but just lacking the DPS to put Tyr in the ground. That's going to open the door for this Oni Fury. Valkyries chunking away at it. Grievous around the corner, though. Achilles zoning out the ADC for the Weavers. Meanwhile, the Valkyries take out the Oni Fury without a fuss. Off the mark with the crushing wave. Habwa in a bad spot now. Tiamat jumping away. Is Grave able to find the kill on the mid lane?
No way.
Shots coming through. Crimson finds one. Mask finds another. Promise goes down. This is quickly becoming a stand-up fight for the Valkyries. Grievous forcing the ultimate. The Moth for that movement speed to run away. And now the Valkyries firmly in the driver's seat here, Stuckey.
That was a pretty definitive fight for the Valkyries. They didn't even need to kill anyone, and they knew it. They took everyone as low as they needed, didn't chase, didn't try to go for that extra little inch there. Said, all right, Remikami, he's out of the fight. Pull back, get the Gold Fury, free objective. Burn it down, and then the Weavers just try to push a little too far, right? If Tripno hadn't missed the ult, Crimson dies there. Make no mistake, he was low enough that he would have died from the follow-up. Instead, Tripno dies, uses his Aegis, there's no value there. Then Grave tries to dive, dies as well, doesn't get Crimson. So they pretty much lost 2 for a single relic on Crimson, and just made him that much bigger. All the while, Wowie's slinging shots, just free casting. The Valkyries team is starting to scale up to about where they want to be. They're 5,000 gold in the head, maybe just under that amount. But it's a lead that matters, and that's what the Valkyries have been really lacking so far in this set. Really, both teams have struggled to form this kind of lead. But at 17 minutes in, Valkyries are now the ones leading this game. They've got the front foot forward. Weavers will have to fight where the Valkyries want to fight. Don't expect to see anything around this Fire Giant just yet. Still a little bit early for that. But the Pyromancer will be looked at. The next Fire Fury will be looked at. Expect some pressure put on these Tier 1 towers as well. Wowie on the right side. But he's got company over here. Are going to be very careful how they approach these sieges.
Duo lane, a little bit of a lane swap here. As Wowie find themselves in the solo lane, and Achilles heads into this left side lane. That Tier 1 tower is the target for the Valkyries. They thought, you might as well send your ADC over there, the tower shredder, rather. And meanwhile, Achilles pushing up this left-hand side, looking for this Tier 2, splitting the map a little bit. As pressure being placed by the Valkyries along all sides of the map. I mean, you got Crimson in the middle lane doing his thing, shoving wave. Got Achilles on this left-hand side, putting some shots into that tower. Just really trying to split up the Weavers here, maybe find a pick, maybe open the door. Crushing wave use there, a little bit off the mark from the Habwa. Tiamat turns it right back around, but here comes Tyr, here comes Horus, here comes Grave, and bye-bye goes Crimson. A lot expended to take out the middle laner from the Valkyries. And meanwhile,
the
Valkyries say, fine, you want to spend everything on our mid laner? We're just going to throw our ADC and our jungler at this Fire Giant. A little bit of shred there, Yamoja there just for fun. And the Fire Giant goes the way of the Valhalla Valkyries. Nearly a peep out of the Tyrian Weavers.
They have found their window for an objective, and that window exists when the Weavers are nowhere near it. And if that's what it takes, great call. It's a little bit of a shame that Crimson can't capitalize on having that Fire Giant as well. But he's been doing enough damage that he doesn't need it just yet. Valkyries have gone from the leading position to a very comfortable position now. They are easily going to step up to these towers. These tier 2s should be what's getting looked at. It's still an early Fire Giant, so we're not likely to see any pressure being put towards any Phoenixes right now.
Sure.
Only 19 minutes into the game. This is just to cement the Valkyries' lead. All they need to do is strip the towers down, use this Fire Giant to secure themselves this next Fury, and they're looking very good. Weavers try and respond. They've got members in this right side as well here. Uh-oh, Crimson. Wow.
Big time damage onto the Thor coming out there from Tiamat, who's diving in once more onto the jungler, who immediately goes to the Anvil of Dawn. Tyr getting chunked down by Crimson here. Dunking back in, finds a great double stun onto two members of the Valkyries. Tiamat going down, but so are the rest of the members of the Weavers, and Execute on point offline for Aquarius. That is the second Execute that doesn't connect from the solo laner. Tripno finds himself a double kill off it.
So that's pretty tragic for the Valkyries. You just got yourselves a Fire Giant. Now you lose Crimson again, who notably didn't have Fire Giants, so you're not losing off of him. But you're losing it off of Aquarius. Now you're in a position where you can't step forward for these towers anymore because you're in a 3v5. The Weavers lost nobody in that fight at all. Dangerously low were some health bars, but low just doesn't cut it sometimes, and this is one of those cases. Weavers can now step up, start looking for the towers themselves, and indeed, mid lane, that'll be the first target for them. This is going to fall without too much ceremony. Just have to be a little bit more mindful about these fights. We talked about it. The 5-on-5s are where they look their absolute best, not the 2v3s. Maybe dial that one back a little bit. Weaver's going to go ahead and collect the objectives that are on the board. Go ahead and look to even this game up a little bit. It's not going to erase the gold lead completely. They'll put them in a much better situation, though.
You know, not the cleanest smite we've seen throughout the SEC from either of these two teams here today. A back and forth, kind of a drawn-out brawl here from the Valks and the Weavers. And, you know, every time we've seen the Valkyries take a big 5-on-5 team fight or more of a grouped-up aggression, they've come out on top. So I'm curious, Spooky, you know, why are the Valkyries continuously splitting these fights up? You know, you see Tiamat and Achilles on the right-hand side, and you see, you know, insert two players here. And it never turns out well for them, but when we see these big grouped-up fights, it goes the way of the Valks. Is there a particular reason they're not just running with that?
I think the Valkyries are simply suffering from get-em syndrome. And Tyr is on the receiving end of that right now. I just have to back out, but Remakami going in.
And here comes Horus right over the top. Grave, same thing, but Achilles stuck in after an unfortunate Rivers rebuke there out of Gamma. Luckily, Achilles able to work their way out of it here. Locked down from that Tectonic Rift. Charybdis up into that maul, looking for a stun, potentially, but look at Tiamat. Look around the wall. Shots don't connect with any priority targets from the Weavers. And the Valhalla Valkyries just having to reset here after blowing a ton of ultimates on the escape. Same thing goes for the Weavers, though. Actives certainly go the way of the Weavers as well, though. Got some beads online, pretty much on every target but Promise, and I think that's probably the member you're least concerned about for the Valkyries. Woo! Big time double tap coming out there from Thor onto Tiamat. Goes to back right up. Thor dropping down to half HP. Bakasura. No Regurgitate online quite yet, so Mast is going to have to wait another 30 or 40 seconds before that teamfight changing ultimate is back in spot.
I like the aggression from the Weavers there. They're trying to find a pick before this Fire Giant spawned in. Unfortunately, not able to secure themselves anything. The same is true for the Valkyries. Neither team is really in a position where they can step up to this Fire Giant now. Just expect to be seeing a little bit of a dance. Keep an eye on your map. See where two members of the Weavers are. They're not on this right side. Valkyries could have a chance to burn this down. They just have to recognize it and take it. Now with Promise resetting as well, this should be a prime opportunity. Valkyries don't seem to recognize it.
Well, Promise hasn't gone back just yet, deciding to cancel that back and instead hovering around this Fire Giant pit. And like you said, I mean, Grave is not going to be in this fight, and same thing goes for Tripno. For another 15 or 20 seconds here, making their way back from base. And, you know, Fire Giant, fine target, but this half HP Tier 1 tower, certainly more of a prime opportunity for the Valhalla Valkyries to take something of value on this map here. And we're getting to see a 5v5. This is exactly the fight that the Valkyries want to take here in game number 2. Tiamat charging up some of those shredding charges there. Crimson looking to throw some damage over the wall. Achilles very tanky at this point in time, though. And Aquarius able to dash out with no problem there. Here comes Grave, immediately up and immediately down. Doesn't find anybody, though. Rom sending out auto attacks. Astral Barrage coming through. One shot, two shot. Aquarius climbs upon an auto attack. Meanwhile, in the backline, Bakasura dropping low. Mask alive for just another moment here. Abois hasn't found a death yet. There he goes. Wowie putting his finishing touches on one. Finding a second for himself as well. Tyr charging forward. Erupt Crimson just free-casting in the backline as Charybdis versus the entire world here. What can the ADC make happen? Nothing after a BM Aegis and a killer deicide on the back of some great plays coming out from Aquarius and Mast. They trade their life, but in return, the Valhalla Valkyries find a deicide and a fire shot.
That was the most anime villain Aegis I've ever seen in my life.
That was great.
He's popped his stance there. It's even the default idle ROM pose. Just felt BM. Excellent fight from the Valkyries. The Weavers just a little too aggressive. Once again, they try to find something, and they just bite off too much. When Grave doesn't land the Anvil of Dawn, okay, you're probably not going to be finding too much there. Then he hammers forward, immediately gets CC'd, and just melted down. Beautiful River's Rebuke to split up the fight as well. Gamma has just not been letting anything happen on his watch. Ripno just finds one in the back, but it constantly feels like the Weavers are just getting too deep without the proper support that they need. You can swing all day in the back, but if you're getting swung back on by a Bakasura, a Tiamat, and a Ram, yeah, you know, that was probably not going to go so well for you. In the end, Hydrogen wasn't really in the fight, offering anything to Tripno's damage either. These backliners have been so separated from each other. It's been single sources of damage rather than the combined burst that you're really looking for out of your backline at this point. One person is very easy to tank and kill. Two people is a little bit harder. And that's the big difference in that fight. Wowie and Crimson are on the same targets. They are together, and they're just melting anything that steps up to them.
Wolf Fury going the way of the Valkyries here. So yet another objective heading towards the Order side team. As now we've got a real gold lead here set up for the Valkyries.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, we're pushing 30 minutes, so it's going to become less and less relevant. But at this point in time, I mean, an entire item online for Wowie over Hydrogen on this Charybdis. So still very important here as we get into a team fight. Left-hand side, Phoenix aggression. Moving forward is Achilles, who's locked down and locked into the rivers coming out from Gamma, unfortunately, creating a bit of a misplay there, locking in his own teammate. Tyr immediately drops in the back line to those shredding blades coming out from Bakasura. Team that is leading the charge, question mark, under this Phoenix, a 1v1, excuse me, a 1-4-1, as both solo laners go down. Notably, though, Rimikami not able to get that Lawbringer off. And the Weavers have been pushed out here. Forrest has to get out of dodge. Same thing goes for the Thor, living with just an inch of HP left there. Shots going into this left side Phoenix. Bird's going to fall. Valhalla Valkyries are going to grab their objective, and they're going to back out.
Yeah, when you push a team with Fire Giant off of your Phoenix, you've only really bought yourself a few seconds there, especially when it's a team with the Umoja on their side as well. Crimson putting out so much damage, basically evaporated Grave from the face of the earth. He's lucky to be out of his grave right now. And it is the left bird that falls. Crucial for the Valkyries. They still got some time left to play with on their Fire Giant. They still look at that right lane Tier 1 tower, which somehow is still alive in this game. The Valkyries now pushing towards the 10,000 point for their lead. Something's got to change for the Weavers, and if you're asking me, maybe some more attention needs to be put onto Crimson in these fights. But even then, if you're diving so far deep, there's no guarantee Crimson doesn't just say, okay, I'll ground stance. I'm diving your backline now.
Sure.
Wowie, Dawn Pen build once again has the dominance online, simply shredding Remakami as he tries to step forward there. You saw how fast he burned down. The Weavers just don't have someone to tank all this damage. There's too much pen, there's too much shred. If they want to find success, it has to be a concerted dive, and not this anything but that.
Graves stepping forward there and paying for it with his life. Remember that time, Spooky? I'm just going to bring this up because I'm so rarely right. Remember that time I was like, hey, are you worried about the Weavers not having enough frontline come late game? Well, now it's coming through his mask, takes out Tripno. No crushing wave for you, sir, as this right-hand Phoenix is going to fall swiftly here for the Valhalla Valkyries. Left-hand burnt down, right-hand burnt down. Two key members of the Weavers' defense offline, and shocking. Like, literally stunned that the Valkyries are not just moving into the throne room here of the Tyrian Weavers, deciding to play this one slow with a mid-Phoenix and a mid-tower. The Tier 2 still online.
They've got Fire Minions pouring down the left side. Gonna have Fire Minions on that right as well. Fire Giant coming up is up. We're only 30 seconds away from the enhanced version at this point. They want to play for it. If they can bait the Weavers in, boy.
Tiamat straight baiting the Weavers here. Locked in one, a Riptide coming out from Gamma. That was filthy to make sure the Weavers had absolutely no place to go there. Tears able to escape the wrath of the Valhalla Valkyries, but they have certainly forced out the Tyrian Weavers out of this Fire Giant pit. As, like you mentioned, Fire Minions pouring into the throne room here. I mean, what is Charybdis to do but push up this middle lane, maybe take the Tier 2 tower, and just wait for that alarm bell to go off that alerts the entire map that the Fire Giant has been slain.
Yeah, this now is the enhanced version as well. We're over the 30-minute mark. Grave, now you're going back down. On my.
Tiamat is actually shredding Tiamat, and Crimson loses Fire Giant buff and his life for 60 seconds. Aquarius, meanwhile, takes out Hydrogen, who was just chilling in middle lane. And now it seems like, I know the Tyrian Weavers aren't super concerned about this game, and I know the Valkyries have a lot to play for, but it seems fast and loose from both of these teams. Spooky.
I mean, they're here to have a good time, not a long time, right? And this is already gone 30 minutes. Well, one of them is winning. So.
I mean, both of them. I mean, the Weavers took game 1, and the Valkyries are taking over game number 2 here, so really, the real winner are the viewers at home. They're getting 2 good smite games.
Potentially even 3 if the Valkyries are able to take this all the way. And now going ahead, taking this Primal Fury down. They're putting themselves in a very comfortable position to do so. Valkyries are hard-pressed to lose this match, but that left side bird has respawned. Still a mid-tower, staying in mid, obviously.
Yep, good call there, Spook.
Valkyrie's likely going to wait for Crimson to regroup with them here. They can take this Tier 2, no problem. It's not going to put up much of a obstacle to them. That Aquarius is going to step in with the main wave, take care of that himself. A little bit of defense coming out from the Weavers, but they cannot afford to put much onto a Tier 2 right now. They're too far down. Sure, they killed Crimson, but they're still facing 4 people with the enhanced Fire Giant. Crimson just doesn't get to play with FG, man. Like, he just doesn't get to use the buff.
Yeah, I thank Grave for that. And notably here, I'm looking at builds as we look at this Phoenix defense here for the Tyrian Weavers. No Titans being online for Hydrogen. May play a part if those autos are going into a tanky target like this Achilles, or even the Tiamat in ground stance here. As the minions are shoving forward into this middle lane, Phoenix. Left Phoenix is low and is weak as well. Achilles dashing in just to take the Weavers' attention away from the Bakasura on the left-hand side. Gamma locking into, not nailing to though. Phantom Shell coming through, able to allow that Charybdis and the Hanbot to escape the clutches of the waves. And that's just going to be a free Phoenix wipe across the board. The only objective left standing here for the Tyrian Weavers. Their Titan stands between them and a game number 3 here. It's going to have to be some kind of miracle defense coming out from the Chaos Squad. The Tyrian Weavers. I'm not sure they have it in them, Steve.
Weavers are still 5 strong here. Haven't lost anyone on the defense just yet. Still have all their ultimates available as well. There is Gamma Promise going on in. Lots of damage though. Push back.
Valkyries going in. No ultimates online here for the Valkyries, or few, I should say. Aquarius finds the first kill on a Promise. Wowie over the top with Hydrogen. Tier in the backline, one more auto out of Wowie. should put Remikami in the ground. That's a double kill for the Hunter for the Valkyries. And now with only Tripno and Grave to defend this Titan. Achilles falling in the back line, but Habwa has been baited forward here. Rama with the combat roll forward. That's a triple for Wowie and Thor, now emoting in the fountain as the Tyrian Weavers are certain that the Valhalla Valkyries are going to send this to a game number 3 here. A little bit of BM padding stats, and the Titan will finally fall here at 33 minutes.
That someone stole Wowie's quadra kill there. I don't know who it was, but he deserved the quadra. He went into the Astral Barrage. He found the shot onto Charybdis, but was not rewarded with the quadra he would deserve to have. All in all, great showing from the Valkyries. This is what we have come to expect from them. Once they get to those 5-on-5s, they kind of just look like a different team than when they're just playing the lane phase. Individually, they are prone to getting caught out. We saw that throughout this match.
Sure.
If you get them grouped up, if you allow them to have the fight that they're looking for, they're going to execute on it every single time. This time, Weavers were just caught unprepared, couldn't get their foot in the door, couldn't stop that group up from forming. Ultimately, ended up getting caught out a few times, looking for a flank, didn't really get them anywhere. I'm thinking for game 3, maybe both teams just take the Thor and put it on the shelf.
Yeah, didn't love it in game 1 on Mass, didn't love it for Grave in game number 2. And, I mean, you look across the board, it's no surprise who's topping the charts. Wowie came through big time. It took the lead that was established in the duo lane, turned it into a 707 slash line for himself. Erupt Crimson, 3-3, but I guarantee you once we flip over to the damage charts, it's certainly going to paint a picture of Tiamat shredding through targets. Yeah, there it is. Almost 50k damage in 33 minutes. Just absolutely filthy coming out from Crimson. And meanwhile, on the Weavers, I mean, respectable damage numbers across the board. Tripno just, like you said, going too deep too many times. But really, what other option did this Habwa have? A lack of engage coming out from the Weavers. I mean, real consistent engage. Grave over the top with the Anvil, sure. Hydrogen only putting out 16k. Certainly some cracks and some gaps that need to be shorn up here in game number 3.
I think the most telling slash line on the head-to-heads there is Remikami is 0-4 by the end of this game.
Sure.
Aquarius is 5-6 by the end of the game. Okay, neither of them are positive on kills to deaths, but one of them spent the entire first half of the game being focused in his lane. And let me tell you, it wasn't Remikami. Aquarius showed up massively in every one of those fights, bought tons of space. And while Remikami was trying, he was doing his best. The builds from Crimson and Wowie simply did not allow him to do what he needed to do. He needed to have Promise in there with him as that additional diver. And he just couldn't. Promise had to be taking care of the backline. He had to make sure that his damage dealers were trying to stay healthy. And so Remikami was often just diving by himself and getting melted. And it loops back to what you said. They simply ended up not having a front line for the Weavers.
Well, you know, Spooky, this morning in the European SMITE Challenger Circuit, we took it to a game number 3, and wouldn't you know it, same thing can be said here for North America, the SEC. Game number 3 between the Valkyries and the Weavers coming at you in just a second. Stick around.
Holding tight while it lasted. I thought that we were forever. I didn't know any better. Took a second chance, trusted you again. I feel shattered. Broken strings, cause you play me like a violin. Shame on me for all your 7 deadly sins. Had it all, but you craved attention. Drowning in your own reflection. Put me down just to see me get back up again. 6 feet under and you're ready to give all the pain. If I was your new addition, you make me part of your equation. Shattered from the past. Wish you were my last. Shatter me to pieces. used to feel, but this isn't real. Now we're over. Take it all, there's nothing left here anyway. We used to talk, but now we don't know what to say. Now we're just two passing strangers. We tried, you lied, goodbye forever. Put me down just to see me get back up again. 6 feet under and you're ready to give all the pain. If I was your new addition, you make me part of your equation. Shattered from the past, wish you were my last. Made of pieces like broken glass.
Howdy, folks. Welcome back into the SMITE Challenger Circuit. It's North America. It's Game 3. It's I almost said the Tanuki. That's Europe. It's the Weavers. It's the Valkyries. It's Dimes. It's Spooky. Game number 3, Spooky, should be fantastic. Adaptations from game number 2. Go. I want to stop.
Frankly, I thought by game number 3, you'd have the teams down at this point. But you continue to impress me, Dimes.
Yep.
It's such a tough situation to look at, right? Because in game 1, the Weavers were doing pretty much what they needed to. They were grouping up, they were finding their opportunities. But even there, right, I think a lot of their success did come from some mistakes on the part of the Valkyries.
Sure.
In game number 2, the Valkyries cleaned up a lot. They weren't looking quite as much for those scrappy fights. They were functioning more as a unit. And when it came to those objectives, they were a lot more cohesive about what they wanted to do. Okay, we're going to group up and kill this guy, and then we're all going to search for the next guy and hit them together and then pull back. Going to game number 3 here. First of all, put the Thor away. It hasn't been good. It hasn't been doing what either team has needed. Just needs a little bit more cohesion from the Weavers now. If they know that the Valkyries want to just swarm over one person, all right, be ready to play as a unit. Get rid of that Emoja, because that was a big problem. Constantly separating the fights and making sure that the Weavers couldn't function as a team. It has to go. They can't let it happen again.
Well, game number 3 starts right here with picks and bans, Spooky. And like you said, I mean, Umoja banned in game number 1, taken off the table, right? For good reason. Same reason this Nox is going the way of the Shadow Realm here. Just way too much lockdown, way too much CC. Umoja would be a fantastic start here for the Valks. Oh, the Valks actually take it off the board, so they don't want to see that in the hands of Promise over on the Weavers. I don't foresee the Thor coming back out. The Bakasura has a 100% win rate, Spooky. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
I don't want to think about
just
it.
The ideas guy. I'm thinking an Apwash here for the
Weavers. Like it here. You just need to stop. You just need to stop now. We're gonna put you. Can we mute Dimes Mike?
No.
Just for Pix Advance, that would be great. Unfortunately, you're right. The Boxer does have a 100% win rate. And the Boxer is honestly in a fairly decent spot right now. We've been seeing a lot more of him than we used to. He brings pressure. He has very good clear, brings good invades. There is a purpose to him. I like him better in the jungle than I did in the duo lane, but even there he won, so who am I to complain? I do think the emoji ban is very smart from the Valks because the Weavers have shown a willingness to go ahead and use their picks as additional bans.
Sure.
I think it's actually very likely the Promise would have just snap-locked it if the Valkyries hadn't banned it away themselves. While it does look a little bit strange to see the team who had such good success on a pick go ahead and ban it away, it's not without reason. And the Weavers go ahead and go back to this Bakasura. The question is it Grave? Is it Hydrogen? Is it Remakami? I wouldn't put it past Remakami to take this into the solo lane. There's just... This pick gives us no information. That's how bad it is right now.
I mean, we haven't seen Bakasura in the solo lane since... I mean, it's been a while, right? As Warriors,
when did you see him last in duo before this?
That's true. You're right. So Bakasura picked up for the Weavers. Uncertain where that pick is going, but it's going to be an immediate Guan Yu Terra. That's a filthy 1-2. Like, if you're talking filthy 1-2 picks, Guan Yu for Aquarius and Terra for Gamma is nasty. But Horus is a great response. And once again, Marty, the only hunter taken out in the ban phases. So you've got your Ishtars, your Kananos, your Charybdis, your Rom. I mean, we saw Chiron played earlier today in Europe. And this Habwa, we see that one as well. I mean, could go the way of Tribno, could go the way of Grave. Just a ton of ambiguity on the side of the Weavers right now. I would be shocked if the Valkyries didn't pick up either Kernunos or Rom for WoWie right now.
Oh, I love this.
Pick.
The
yes, I agree.
For Crimson is so good here. Not only is Crimson just great on this god, it's a pretty good matchup into this Habwa. Habwa notoriously short range, Toth, probably the longest range that a mage has in the entire game. So much poke potential coming out there from this mid lane. I think it'll be very hard if Tripno does take this Habwa into the mid lane again. But we've seen this Habwa pick go a couple different places. Wow. Your cat is a diva. Times, I'm going to be honest. It's an absolute diva.
My what?
You know what I said. Your cat.
My what? I don't have a cat.
I don't like you.
Casual gaslighting on cast as Odin is going to be banned away. Rom also taken off the board here by the Weavers. The Thor ban, I'll call it curious. I'll make another comment on it. And the Weavers probably looking to take another ADC off the table. WoWie has certainly shown his mettle in games 1 and 2. Oh, the Naja, stripping that one away from Mast. Actually, don't hate that ban against Mast. That's a totally fine pickup. Does leave things like the Mercury on the table, who we've seen some success on. Susano, notably, as well, is kind of crazy right now. But it's going to be the Ratatasker picked up here. Not totally in love with this pick, but maybe you can talk me into it.
It's a classic. It's a mass classic. I'm actually surprised we didn't just throw this one out. I love this pick right now.
Okay.
Only because it is mass. We've seen him on it before. Does great. It's a very comfortable pick for him. And it has kind of the same style as that Thor. You have a semi-global ultimate. You go up. You get to scout around a little bit. Find that one person in specific you just have been hating all match long, drop onto their head, CC them, insta-burst them down. Mm-hmm. I think Hydrogen is going back to the Bakasura, by the way. I'm pretty sure this is absolutely what that entails. Well, Valks have wisely chosen to wait on their ADC pick. They'll be able to pick what they want to take into the, I'm assuming, Kabrakan Bakasura lane. It could be Horus and Baka with Kabrakan going into the solo lane as well. There's so much flex potential from the Tyrian Weavers. I half expect to see them all just go mid and run down a tower. That's just what this draft is bringing right now. The Valks have a lot going for them. This Jingwei is very good. I love this pick here. Gets you completely out of danger with the Kraken. You have to be very careful. Can't let him close the distance. If you do get rifted, you do have to use the airstrike to get out. You cannot simply dash over the wall.
Sure.
It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But it gives you what you need. Safety, late game scaling, which has been the key for the Valks so far. We'll take a look higher up in the draft, back at this Guan Yu and this Terra. Lots of frontline, lots of dive potential, and so many ways to facilitate it. I look over at the Weavers. It's just another squishy team comp. This team looks very punishable on paper. But it's on paper. Keep in mind, Hydrogen had a 2-level lead over WoW, actually a 3-level lead at one point in game number 1 with this Bakasura. Question is, can he recreate that, or have the Valkyries gotten wise to what they're doing?
The Weavers, team full of glass cannons. The Valkyries, comfort picks galore here, Spooky, as we head into game number 3. This is going to be it for this banger of a set. Weavers taking game 1, Valkyries taking game 2. And just a reminder for you, the Valkyries fighting to fully secure that number 2 seed position heading into SMITE Masters. There's some funky math to be done, but if they drop this game, then the third place team has an opportunity to jump up. I believe that's the Kowloon Wardens. If they take their match tomorrow in North America SCC, then it's going to be a tie. There's going to be a tiebreaker, and then it's going to be another fight to see who moves on to SMITE Masters. So the Valkyries have a lot on the line here. I mean, they could punch their ticket straight to that massive LAN event right here with a win over the Weavers.
Yeah, that's really the goal for them here. They're not wanting to drop this game. I think game 3 is already further than they wanted this one to go. That's why you see these comfort picks come out. That's why you see them go to these guys that they know they can perform on reliably and admirably. The aggression here from the Weavers. Blink, not going to find them anything. 1 relic down. Not too much to show for it. The Valkyries probably feeling pretty okay about that, knowing that the aggression is now going to be mitigated. It's actually 2 relics. Both blinks were used in unison there. Weavers going to have to sit on that one for a minute before they get to try anything else over on this duo lane.
And that's going to be tough, man. I mean, once Mast has this world tree online, right, Ratatasker, you're going to be able to just leap up into the branches, come smashing down from that semi-global ultimate, and that's no beads for Promise or Hydrogen. There's a blink in here by Grave, Mast and Crimson both dropping low. Crimson almost falling to those water hands coming out of Grave. They're going to take the tower here. Tripno doesn't have the damage or the range. Same thing goes for Grave. But, I mean, this is a lethal combination. Tripno and Grave, that is a killer 2v2 in the middle lane. But as I was saying, same thing goes for Tripno, honestly. Not Tripno, rather Grave. No beads online before that crushing wave. Mast is just going to kind of have his way with this duo lane and the jungler.
Yeah, I'd expect to see Mast wanting to get pretty active early on here. Maybe not in this duo lane where obviously the 2v2 isn't quite going their way. And have to wait for a reset before they get too much going for themselves there. But looking over this duo lane, even over at this right lane as well, Ramakami on this Horus, very active, very aggressive player. If you can wait out his dash and catch him after he goes for that stun, there's some kill potential to be had here. But Ramakami is the one who finds it first blood with a visit from Grave. Weaver is starting this game off strong, and with the draft that they have, really not what you want to see if you're the Valkyries. Weavers have lots of early aggression, lots of ways to push that aggression if they manage to find themselves a lead. Whereas a lot of what the Valkyries want to do is scale upwards. They're relying on Mast for the early game. He's looking over here, got eyes on Ramakami.
Ramakami dropping low, nearly to half HP here. Aquarius did take that first spill, but certainly hasn't suffered level-wise from it. Mast just confirming that blue buff, making sure that Aquarius is going to be able to sustain up in that right side lane, no problem. And Aquarius is such a key part of this team. I mean, you really see the Valkyries come online, as you were talking about last game, in those full 5v5 team fight synergy type scenarios. And Aquarius is such a central part of that, creating zoning in the back line, diving the back line, allowing his own damage dealers to really get the DPS off that changes team fights. It's going to be crucial for Mass to make sure that his own solo laner can stay topped up here in this right-hand side, especially if the Weavers are going to target out Aquarius as much as they did in game number 2. I mean, it was like a rotating carousel of ganks in that solo lane.
Yeah, usually the 5th person is important to having a 5v5.
All right, whatever.
They're going to go ahead and try to put some pressure on him here. Great making the rotation, but Aquarius, I think he's wised up to things from game number 2. He knows he has some fans on the other side. He's got a little bit of a safer pick here. He's able to close distance pretty easily, stay topped off, doesn't have to be in combat for the healing and the mobility. And if all else fails, hops on a horse, creates a little bit more distance than the Fatal Strike did on the Achilles. I don't think Aquarius has too much to worry about in this lane. I think Mass would be better served looking elsewhere. I think if you look towards this Agony, Tripno's piling right now, it's a little bit better of a target. Only has the single dash for safety. While he does have good CC potential, he can only stun you once, right? Then he has to wait for the ability to come back up. That's the only CC he has. It's AoEs, you have to space yourselves properly. He's been aggressive in this mid lane. If you can catch him dashing in on Crimson and just then dropping on him out of nowhere, got some good kill potential there. Brave, also in the area.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, Master's in a bad spot here. Stun.
Oh,
the
no!
knockup from Grave puts that combustion offline out of Tripno. That would have been a dead rat for sure. 100% lethality. But just a little bit of an unfortunate miscommunication there. Knockup offline from Grave. And allows Mass to live. That was the idea, right? You send out the flame wave, you grab the combustion, and the squirrel takes a spill. A little bit of an unfortunate sequence of events there. Tripno and Grave get it turned right back around on them. 1-shot, 2-shot, ultimate. Not online for Crimson. It looked like it was using that engagement just beforehand. Shots through, not quite from Gamma. And so speaking of, I want to turn our attention really quickly here to Promise, because I think we're undervaluing this bracket just a little bit. Similar to how the Odin in game number 1 was so crucial in locking down some of those low mobility targets. I mean, those walls are trapping literally everybody, right? Mass, Crimson, Gamma, Wowie, Aquarius. Nobody has a giant leap over those walls. They're either going to have to burn a Phantom Shell or an ultimate to escape the clutches of Promise, and I think that might come really into play in these close jungle quarters team fights.
I think there's definitely a lot of potential, but most of what's going to happen is you're going to see Promise probably trying to cut a single person off.
Sure.
It's not quite as big as the Emoji walls were in that second game, so you're not able to block off whole teams. And like you said, the Valkyries do have ways to get past it. It's just in their ultimates. It doesn't feel good to do, but sometimes if that's what it takes to either save your life or win a fight, you're okay burning that in those instances. You're trading ultimate for ultimate in that case, which there are much worse trades we had. Mask.
Oh, speaking of ultimates, the Regurgitate comes out for some great CC to immune Hydrogen from that knockup of Promise is the new target here. Shredding coming through out of Mask. There's the walls to lock a few members of the Valkyries into place, but guess what? Gamma's not done with you. Promise Wowie puts the finishing touches on that kill, and the Valhalla Valkyries tie this game up 1-1 in the kill column.
1-1 in the kills, slight 1,000 gold lead for the Weavers still. The Valkyries are now getting active, and this is what you want to see here. They have a lot of kill potential if they put it forward. Promise doesn't have a lot of safety in this lane, has a speed boost and CC, and that's about it. I'd like to see the Valkyries getting active over there. Now, original target was Hydrogen. Of course, the ult out of him. CC immunity was good enough to save his life there. But I like the reactions from the Valkyries. In game 1, I think that was one of their biggest fail points, was they weren't reacting to the changing situation on the map. They were trying to kill a target, and if that target didn't die quickly, they were going to stick on that target, or we're still trying to burn that target. Okay, now we lost a fight. Not the case here in game 3. Mask goes for Hydrogen, burns an ult. Okay, that's not working anymore. Who is still available to be looked at? Promise. Great. Cut him off, kill him, put him down. What is that damage? Good gracious.
Oh, just
Tragedy.
off the mark there. Crimson full length ultimate there. And just, I mean, we're talking a matter of units, inches from connecting that one with Tripno. Unfortunate there's Crimson, but that's going to be a TKO. Tripno forced back to base, so a little bit of extra farm going to be able to pick up here by the Valkyries.
Still in that win, a TKO does still get your lane opponent out of lane, and the early stages, those are very important, right? This is time he's not farming, he's not getting gold, he's not getting XP. This is where Crimson can look to get a little bit of a lead. Not going to be able to do too much. Tripno is back relatively quickly here. But if the Valkyries can keep doing that, if they can get repeat pressure, oh no.
Gamma locked into place, locked down by the Regurgitate. Grave forced to use that Blink and Crushing Wave combination to take out Gamma. Wow, he's taking a couple shots on the backside of that as well. Yet another kill heading the way of the Weavers here. Put one on the tally mark there for Grave, and that's going to be great for rotations around the map.
Weavers staying just as active as the Valkyries here, if not more so. They see the aggression, they want to fight, they know they have it. Hydrogen jumping in, taking a lot of shots here.
Whoa.
Oh, down from the skies. Wow, he still picks that one up though. So it's just a kill for a kill across the board every time here, Dimes. The Weavers try to punch, the Valkyries have a counterpunch available. This has a little bit more than a counterpunch. Looking at the Fury, might just be free for them too.
Moving forward here, no walls available for Promise. So this is going to be a two-stun or maybe just an auto-attack steal attempt here from Promise. But here comes Erupt Crimson with fantastic secure in the hands of that Thaw. So Promise able to just watch on, unfortunately, as the Valhalla Valkyries secure a Gold Fury for themselves. And that's going to draw the gold to just about parity as we're 10 seconds away from 10 minutes here in game number 3, Spooky. I mean, you know both teams are going to want to play this one slow. By the time we get to game number 3, in any situation, no teams are looking to press the issue. They're looking to farm up. They're looking to play safer team compositions and really allow their opponents to make mistakes that can be capitalized upon.
I feel like the Weavers should be looking to press things a little bit here. They have a good early game. They have good aggression tools. And especially now, while we just used the airstrike at the Gold Fury, this would be the time for the Weavers to get aggressive on that left side. Try to put a kill onto Wowie. Because right now, he's 2-0. He's a level up on Hydrogen. There's shutdown gold to be had here. And you're not going to get that by just sitting there passively. In fact, if you sit there passively, things will only get worse on that left side. Brave is looking to get active around this red buff, though. Weavers still looking for some fight opportunities. And with the Pyromancer spawning in pretty soon here, you can see why they've got attention on this right side as well. I'd like to see the Valkyries answer that. They've got great secure, great team fight around it. Just have to see who decides to push the issue first, though. The Weavers have the means to do so. They just can't be caught.
Oof, Tripno caught out in the middle lane there, forced to use the beats to get out of dodge. Mast burned those for the mid laner from the Tyrian Weavers. That's not going to be up in time for the next respawn of a major objective. And, you know, we saw Rimikami make that rotation out of the solo lane into the middle lane. Little bit off timing, right? Wasn't able to find anything. But, you know, leaving lane at 11 minutes from a solo laner tells me that the Tyrian Weavers are communicating with each other and looking to really put the pressure on the rest of the map. And here Rimikami goes again, leaving the solo lane, trying to find some extra farm on the right-hand side. The Weavers are looking to get as quickly to a team fight as possible here, Spooky.
Well, they're getting there pretty quickly because Rimikami has about a level and a half lead over Aquarius right now. This is absolutely the time for him to start looking to rotate and apply that lead across the map. But take a look at this left side. Mass is here again. Hydrogen.
Great shred. Hydrogen with that ultimate. And Wowie electing to not airstrike over the wall or follow up. I mean, why wouldn't you, right? The Valkyries burned absolutely nothing for it. They get the no beats online for Hydrogen. Force that Regurgitate. They don't get the blink, though. So the Valkyries just a net gain there in the left-hand lane. Strip that away from Hydrogen, which means that Bakasura is going to be a prime target for the next minute or so.
Now this also allows Wowie to get some more farm on the map. Final Judgment not connecting there in the mid lane. It's just another wave. Oh my. Whoa. That's not where we were looking.
Nope. Aggression all across the map here. Spooky, left-hand lane. Hydrogen gets knocked down. The middle lane, Erupt Crimson tries to find a kill onto Tripno. And the only actual kill that comes out is on the right-hand side. Aquarius dropped down by Grave on this hop wall. And once again, the Weavers applying pressure to this right-hand side, just refusing to let Aquarius grab a significant lead or even a lead at all in the solo lane.
I'm hard-pressed to believe, though, that it's worth putting that much attention into Aquarius.
Sure.
We saw them try the same thing in Game 2, and it didn't matter. Aquarius was still having an impact in those fights, still creating space, still finding kills. However, that was with an execute. He doesn't have that same luxury this time around. Only the space creation.
Woo!
Crimson.
Blink in onto Crimson. Promise throws down the walls, but isn't quite enough to cut off the escape route there for the Thaw. The double dunk in from Mass. Great knock up there, and a knock back is actually going to save Mass' life there. Promise, half HP is 3-man shot coming out from Gamma. Great lockdown, great knockup from Wowie as well. Final judgment comes through onto Grave, almost taking the life of the juggler. Here comes Gamma blinking forward. Aquarius has made the rotation as well. Lockdown onto Promise, who doesn't have that ultimate online any longer. Shred coming through from Aquarius, but so tanky is this Skabrakan. Meanwhile, Mass doing his damage in the backline, takes out the juggler Grave. Tripno trades it right back out onto Gamma, and Wowie forced out of the fight. Here comes Remikami. Knock up onto Wowie, isn't going to connect. A great Aegis saves the life of the ADC for just a moment before Remikami finishes off Wowie. And it is a 2-for-2 at the moment with Remikami the next target. Mass going down to the likes of Tripno. And the Weavers on top.
Man, the game breaker there was Crimson just being out of mana. Did not have the resources to keep putting damage out into that fight. Valkyries pushed too far. Well, by the time you're all the way up at the enemy purple, you know, maybe it's time to start backing off a little bit and look to that Fury. That fight was over the Gold Fury, or the Primal Fury, I'm sorry. In the end, neither team ends up getting a hold of it. I think the Valkyries, if they had just backed off a little bit, recognized that Crimson didn't have anything to contribute to that fight, they walk out of there with a 2-for-0, and they're feeling great about it. Instead, I have to make this walk back to the Fury. A little bit of a deficit on their end, about 1,500. Not the worst, still very much fightable. Fact is, they could have evened it up. Weavers, look at this Pyromancer splitting the map, and it doesn't look like the Valkyries realize it. That's going to push the Weavers into a little bit more comfortable position. Valkyries could have had some time to burn that Fury down. Just didn't have the vision down that they needed to recognize the Weavers weren't going to be in position to contest them. Good play from the Weavers. Staying aware on this map, and now Hyjin actually has had time to farm up. He's level 16. This is the problem we saw in game number 1, where he just gets a little bit too big for Wowie to fight one-on-one. You can start taking these fights, really shredding through multiple members. You saw the impact he had on Aquarius. Things can only get more dangerous from here for Hydrogen.
Ping's coming out here on the Primal Fury.
Oh my.
The Tyrian Weavers grouping up on this objective. That's just going to absolutely be shredded down here by the likes of Hydrogen and Grave. As the Valhalla Valkyries have made the rotation in. It's a 5-man unit, so this is the first real 5v5 organized teamfight we've seen all game long. Mask blinking in, going in aggressively onto Grave, who turns it right back around onto the Rat. Meanwhile, Terra ult popped in preemption there. Tripno takes out Crimson in the backline. That is huge. That final judgment offline for the rest of this team fight. And now the Valhalla Valkyries have absolutely no choice with their main damage and secure down. Just let this Gold Fury go.
Yeah, once Crimson goes down, there's no steal potential for the Valkyries here. Excellent target prioritization. Tripno did so much damage with the Rain of Fire. Pretty much just deleted Crimson from the map. And that is the danger of this Tove pick. It's an immobile pick, and it has no CC immunity. If you get caught by Promise, you have nowhere to go. And Tripno just reaps all the benefits of that. For the Valkyries' part, Mass does split the map, try to look for some invades on the right side. Wasn't able to find a whole lot as the buffs were still on respawn timers there. That means that they haven't lost as much as they could have. Still not a good look. About 4,000 gold down now are the Valkyries. Only 17.5 minutes into this game. With a lead like this, the Weavers can start stepping up a little bit more comfortably around this right side. Start looking at that Fire Giant, not to really take the Fire Giant itself, but to force an answer from the Valkyries. They can start looking to push the issue and tell the Valkyries that it is time to fight. Promise has the blink down for about 50 seconds, but once it's back up, you can expect to see the Weavers get a little bit aggressive, start looking for Crimson in the backline, find ways to cut him off. He's got to be their number one target pretty much from this point going forward.
I mean, if Crimson's the target here, Spooky, I've got two thoughts on that. First of all, who's going to protect him, right? You've got Gamma for the peel. Same thing goes for Mast. If the backline peels for the backline, you're in a good spot here. But the dive coming out from the Weavers between Grave with the blink and Remikami with that Horus ultimate is just wacky. I mean, they could just go in on Crimson 3 or 4 times if they need to take that target out. But the second thing is kind of on the flip side, the positive. If the Weavers are diving Crimson so hard and they allow Wowie to free cast, who's really coming online here at 3-1-0. Yeah, 3 levels down, sure. Not going to be the case for much longer. Is that going to be detrimental to the Weavers if Wowie just gets the ability to freely chuck autos into the fray?
If they take too long to kill Crimson, yes, absolutely. Anytime you're letting a damaged character just free cast on you, it will have some repercussions. What the Weavers have to do is they have to get on Crimson and blow him up instantly. Now, they have the tools to do that. Tripno can lock targets down, stun Crimson down so he can't go anywhere. Should simply die to the combination damage there. Then you can turn your eyes over to Wowie. Right now, Hydrogen has a 2-level lead over the Bird. Should be able to find some good pressure there. It really only takes Promise to lock Crimson down. If you put Promise onto Crimson and have Remikami just zoning Wowie off, you're probably okay to make that split for a little bit. In fact, I'd actually argue it in the reverse. Have Remikami go onto Crimson, because Remikami has a knockup. And you don't want to put the knockup onto the Jing Wei. So have Promise just say that Wowie doesn't get to contribute to the fight. You could just throw the walls up in Wowie's face and have those block the basic attacks coming out from this Jing Wei, while the rest of your team just looks at killing Crimson. Sure, you know, she'll break the walls down eventually, but every shot put into a wall is a shot that's not hitting someone on your team. Weavers have plenty of tools to play around with right now. And with Hydrogen being level 20, they should definitely start to look to use them.
Looks like another 5v5 is headed our way here, Spooky. Taking over 20 minutes in this game, number 3 here between the Valhalla Valkyries and the Tyrian Weavers. Valkyries, in a way, fighting for their Smite Master's life here, as to not take it to a tiebreaker. Oh, Final Judgment coming through the wall here, isn't able to secure the Pyromancer. That's going to be down for this next upcoming team fight. Bit of a coin flip here from the Weavers. Promise taking plenty of damage. Mask the target for Mimikami being forced out. Pyromancer leashed once again. Tyrian Weavers able to take out the Pyromancer, but Mask, meanwhile, up into the air, finds 2 targets. Crushing Wave used on the escape. Gamma pops the ultimate, allows the Valhalla Valkyries to follow up. Remikami caught in the backline here. Same thing goes for Hydrogen. Just not a single target here that the Valkyries can lock down. Surprise that it's going to be Remikami, but Hydrogen blows up Gamma in the backline. Remikami still baiting out the Valhalla Valkyries. Just cannot find the final shots. Mask forced to use beats to immune the CC. Finds a kill. Onto 1. Grave forced out of the fight as well. Aquarius escaping. A great dodge there from the Meteor. Out of Tripno. And meanwhile, Tripno falls to Mask. A 2-for-1. Gamma, the support, gives his life in return for 2. And a Pyromancer the way of the Tyrian Weavers. Valhalla Valkyries can't be super upset about that, but boy, they sure would have loved to put that Pyromancer in their own pocket.
That was the unluckiest nut blast of Tripno's life. Mask just steps forward, blasts him with the nuts, stuns him down, and he has nowhere to go at that point. Why are you laughing? It was unfortunate for Tripno, man. Just a little bit out of position. Shouldn't have been that far forward, granted. But man, the Weavers, they're just constantly on this teetering point where they have a really good fight, and oh no, now it's not really going their way. Good counter engage, and now Promise is out of position, but Hydrogen could make a big play.
Oh, this might be a little bit of a bait though. The Valhalla Valkyries chasing out Promise, and meanwhile on the backline, Hydrogen ripping through Crimson. Mass dunking down onto the Bakasura, able to clean it up in the backline here, but traded out immediately as the Habwa takes out Wowie, their ADC. And I mean, you just lost 2 priority backline targets in Crimson and Wowie, and you traded it all out for Hydrogen after committing too hard to Promise. Tunnel vision is just spelling disaster here for the Valkyries in games 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, Hydrogen got way more value out of that than he had any right to.
For sure.
You completely eviscerated Crimson with the regurgitate. Those came out, Toth had nowhere to go. Beads were still on cooldown, couldn't dash out of the cripple field. He's just dead. Okay, well, where's that leave Wowie? To the Wolves is where it left Wowie. Now, Weavers aren't able to do a whole lot off of it. It's just 2 kills. Not able to secure any real objectives off of that. Pyromancer's still down. Fire Giant, maybe not with those health bars. But the Weavers can keep executing that plan over and over. That's the dive that they need to do. Hydrogen just gets in there. Valkyries have to be very cautious about how much aggression they're put towards someone, because it's like you said, tunnel visioning has really been their downfall multiple times throughout this set. And it is time for them to, kind of open up the shutters and take a wider look at things. Weavers take the first step forward. They're on the Fire Giant now. And the Valkyries answer.
So out of position here, Spooky, as 2 members of the team aren't even close to this one. But the Tyrian Weaver's not really even committing to the Fire Giant here, as Remikami's going to hop off of that objective. Promise is leaping forward here. I mean, sure, the Weavers may not have known that the Valkyries, 2 key, Wowie and Mass were back at base, but a little more commitment. Kind of surprising there from the Weavers. This tier 1 tower sure does look juicy to Hydrogen, though, here with those Butcher Blades. Going to shred that down in just a moment here, create a little bit more space in the middle lane. Maybe allow the Weavers to put some wards forward, grab some vision, allow themselves to position more adequately in the Fire Giant pit. A blink forward, a double blink forward onto Crimson, who once again is going to fall, question mark there. Hydrogen finds the final shot onto the mid laner there, but it turns right back around as Wowie takes out Hydrogen with auto attacks. Crushing Wave used defensively, a lockdown on a Promise, who's taken out by Wowie. Now the Valhalla Valkyries charging forward. There's the Crushing Wave coming through. As Master Wowie out of this fight, Graves turns it back around onto Gamma. Aquarius, sure, charging forward, but no backup from either of his DPS teammates. It's going to be a 2-for-2 wash here in the middle lane. Maybe a Pyromancer going the way of the Weavers here on the back end.
I can practically hear Hydra just saying, Bakasura go burr, as he's just holding left mouse button down, walking towards Crimson under his own tower. Probably could have released the button and closed the distance to kill him a little bit faster. But at the end of the day, you did still kill your priority target, Crimson Falls. But does allow Wowie a lot more time than I think he had any right to have there. If they had been able to kill Crimson a little bit faster, would have been able to turn that attention over to Wowie, stop some of that damage output, but at the end of the day, you only get what you get. So far, it's just been kills on both sides. Fire Giant still kind of has a question mark over it right now. What I think the Weavers are trying to do, and that last fight really kind of solidifies this for me, is they want Crimson dead before they even look to secure that Fire Giant. You saw them start to burn it, and they were putting some good damage into it. But with the way they were positioned, they were spread out in a net. They were looking to try to catch Crimson, stepping forward to try to Final Judgment confirm it over a wall. They don't want to take any chances with that. If he is on the map and alive with an ultimate available, they're not doing the Fire Giant. They're looking to kill this Toth.
At this point in the game, Crimson 0-3, but still top 3 on the damage charts, right behind Wowie and Horus. How much more space can you create if you're Crimson, right? Like, Crimson was under a tower, essentially, and moving forward was Hydrogen, who blinks and then leaps and then regurgitates. There's an immediate blink forward from Promise as follow-up. There's another blink online for Grave. I mean, how far do you have to hang back in these teamfights to ensure your own safety if you're Crimson? Especially when the Weavers just want you dead. Like, straight up, you said it, Crimson is not allowed to play in these team fights. Do you just hover back and, like, literally wait in a different area code? until Hydrogen burns that blink, and then you can engage, or how do you kite around that, Spooky?
It's not about how far away you are. It's who you are standing next to. And in that situation, it was no one. Crimson was by himself.
Right.
The Weavers had all the freedom in the world to simply run him down. If he had been over to the left, or to the right, I'm sorry, with the rest of his team, they can't make that play. They can't run through the entirety of the Valkyries. They can try, and they might still kill Crimson, but they'll take a heck of a lot more damage and probably lose the Fire Giant as a result afterwards. It's just a matter of grouping. The backline has to peel for each other. It's Wowie, Crimson, and Gamma need to be together to try to counteract this dive. Otherwise, one of them is going to be dying every single time. And sure, the Valkyries have been able to answer some kills back, but they haven't been quite as valuable. When you have the best secure on the map, and you're doing this Fire Giant dance, pushing 28, 29, 30 minutes, you have to be together. You have to keep this Toph alive.
Knock up there, double knock up from Grave, who's come up clutch in these team fights. Big time crushing waves, big time knockups, big time water hands, big time pretty much everything. Graves pressing the buttons great here in game number 3. So Remikami and Promise are positioning themselves pretty aggressively here in this Fire Giant pit. And you could just feel that the Weavers really want to press forward here. And you're going to look, eyes on Hydrogen, eyes on Grave to take out Crimson in the backline. Gamma, the target here, already taking a good chunk of damage from the front line of the Tyrian Weavers. Judgment comes through, and what a great crushing wave, locking 3 members in under those walls. Mass finds one, Wowie finds another, Hydrogen finds himself a double kill, and the kills are raining down here. In the span of just about 10 seconds, half the map has found their way to the grayscale, with the Tyrian Weavers on top of this team fight. Tripno finds himself, 1, 2, 3 kills in that team fight, or what feels like it at least, with full HP, raining bombs over the wall. It's going to be a free Fire Giant to the side of the Tyrian Weavers, and this game is wide open.
Yeah, that's not kills raining from the sky. That's fire, and it's coming from Tripno there, Dimes. 2 kills his way, 2 kills the way of Hydrogen. That's exactly what the Weavers are looking for. If you get them into these narrow jungle fights, if you get the Valkyries grouped up, there is so much the Weavers have to punish that. I don't think the Final Judgment found any value in that fight at all. I don't think it even connected with anybody. That's a big ultimate to just whiff out of nowhere. That's part of the reason that the Weavers are able to win that fight so handily. It's just an enormous chunk of damage, not doing anything, not removing any health from those bars. Fire Giant, Tower, Pyromancer, all the way of the Weavers, and the gold lead extends up even further, pushing towards 10,000 at this point, more in the 9,000 range right now. This is where things get very difficult for the Valkyries to hold on. They've still got tier 2 towers. You're not fighting over those. It's simply not going to happen. You're looking at Phoenix defenses at this point. Got good tools in your kit for it. You're looking at Crimson on this Toph. You're looking at Gamma on this Terra as your 2 big ones. Aquarius and Mask can stymie some of the dive coming out from the Weavers. But at this point, it's so much riskier for Mask and Aquarius to do their God's game plan, because it involves getting very aggressive and diving into the enemy team.
Sure.
When the Weavers are 9,000 gold up, Fire Giant around the waist of 3 members, I don't know about you, Dimes, but generally when I dive into that situation, my team calls me an inter and then reports me. Won't be that bad in this game. Everyone's in comms. But that's the kind of situation you're looking at. It's such a difficult task to pull off.
So, Spooky, if you are masked on this Ratatasker, oh, those are huge crit numbers coming through from Hydrogen. That's going to hurt. Crimson is going to be one cooked bird if he gets dove by Hydrogen at this point in the game. But if you are masked, I mean, are you just playing... Are you playing Peel for Crimson? Are you playing Backliner? Like, are you using your ultimate almost as like a CC tool for the knock-up and not as an engagement tool?
You're absolutely using it as a counter engage at this point. You're not getting any good engagements off with it. You're waiting for the Weavers to get aggressive, and then you're just dropping on whoever gets left behind. If Remikami and Promise, and probably Hydrogen, are jumping into your backline, as Master probably waiting for that to happen and then going in on Trip No. Problem is, the Weavers are in a position where they can simply all go forward. Trip No, at this point, has no problems dashing forward at the Valkyries and just dropping a stun at his feet and laughing at them. Aquarius, I think, is the key factor here for the Valkyries. How good of a cavalry charge can you get off? It's likely to be an up-down